live. This is News Channel 8 at 4 on your side.
Hurricane Idalia, now a Category 1 hurricane as it makes its way up the Gulf Coast. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Josh Benson.
And I'm Stacy Scheibel. Thank you for joining us. 8 is on your side, bringing you the very latest as the hurricane takes aim at Florida's Big Bend, bringing impacts all along our coast and all along its path. We have live coverage along the Nature coast from Cedar Key all the way down to Manatee County, but we want to begin with our Max Defender 8 weather team following Idalia's track. Jeff?
Yeah, the storm's been strengthening today. It's still a Cat 1, but it probably will be a Cat 2 fairly soon. Take a look at the satellite photo. You can see it's located just to the west of our state right now, and it is continuing to move north and actually picking up the pace, now moving at about 15 miles an hour plus as it moves over very warm water. The water there, 88 to 90 degrees, and so it is becoming better form. Luckily, it's moving fast, or it would have the potential of becoming even stronger, but right now it's forecast to be a strong Cat 3 hurricane at landfall right near the apex of Appalachia Bay, so near St. Mark's to the west of Cedar Key. And you'll see that with our forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. So the pressure's down to 974. The max winds are 90 miles an hour. It's forecast to become a Cat 2. This is at 8 o'clock this evening. It's well to the southwest of Tampa Bay. Then overnight tonight, it's going to be passing to the west of Pinellas County. At 2 a.m., it should be located right about there, and some of the worst weather will be moving in at that time. So our weather will really start to kind of pick up here later this evening, then especially just after midnight. That's when we'll see that solid rain and those sideways rains and also those gusts past, tropical storm force, maybe even a coastal gust close to hurricane force. There's landfall. That's St. Mark's, that's Cedar Key, so right in between the two, with winds of 125 miles an hour knocking on the door almost of Cat 4 status, staying at Cat 3 until it crosses the border here into Georgia. So this is going to be a significant storm. Looking at the radar, as you can see, lots of the spiral bands now making their way into the Tampa Bay area, as you can see, and those will continue to move north as we head through the night, and eventually we will get into this part of the storm right here. That's when we'll see that more solid, steady rain. So I want to show you and break it down the timing-wise. The outer bands, more frequent overnight tonight, gusty squalls. Fast tornadoes certainly possible. We had tornado warnings down in Naples. I expect that later this evening those will work their way northward. The worst weather later tonight through tomorrow afternoon, and then reverse surge tonight. A lot of folks are wondering about the surge. It's going to be a reverse surge tonight. The biggest surge threat will be tomorrow as the winds switch on shore. And I just want to end with our local radar here because the very first outer bands have been moving through the area. One of them, Dade City, headed towards Spring Hill with some heavy downpours and some very breezy conditions. And another one to the south headed into Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands County. With more on our local impacts, here's meteorologist Rebecca Barry.
Thank you, Jeff. I wanted to break it down area by area because depending on where you live and how close you're going to be to the storm, your impacts could be widely different. So let's start with the Nature coast. Citrus and Hernando will get the worst of the storm surge. And so we're talking about 8 to 10 feet. And so a little bit lower in southern Hernando and Pasco, 6 to 9 feet there. But the worst of the surge, and it does extend well inland. I just talked to Jack Royer. He's up in Crystal River. We were trying to find them a safe location where they could show you what's going on, but not be in danger of that water surge. And it is impressive if you look at the storm surge map for that area, how far inland the surge will go. The winds will get to be between 40 and 60 miles per hour with 70 mile per hour plus gusts, and that will be very early tomorrow morning that you'll start to see that. You have a moderate threat for a tornado, and you'll see about 4 to 8 inches of rain along the Nature coast. Moving into Hillsborough and Pinellas counties, we're going to see sustained winds between 30 and 40 miles per hour, and we could see some gusts above 50 miles per hour. To put that in perspective, severe thunderstorms have similar wind gusts, maybe a little lower than that as far as some of our summertime thunderstorm wind gusts that are very damaging. We're looking for 3 to 6 feet of surge, even in the bay, especially once the winds change and start to push water up into the bays where the water gets funneled into tighter spaces. It will be higher. So places like Safety Harbor will have a higher storm surge than other areas that are in more open zones. We're looking for a moderate threat for a tornado, just like the rain bands that are moving through now. They produced 2 tornado warnings a little further south of us in Naples today. So we're on the lookout for rotation. We're looking for 4 to 8 inches of beneficial rain. Sarasota County, 40 to 50 mile per hour sustained winds, 2 to 4 feet of surge, and a low to moderate threat of tornadoes with 4 to 8 inches of rain where we need it the most, right along the coastline in Manatee and Sarasota counties. Our inland counties will see sustained winds between 20 and 30 miles per hour, gusts of up to 40 miles per hour. We're not worried about flooding. We're a little concerned about tornadoes, and you'll see 2 to 4 inches of rainfall over our inland counties, so a little bit lighter wider for inland areas. I'm taking an hour-by-hour look at the wind gust forecast coming up in just a few moments.
Well, Governor Ron DeSantis says Florida is ready for Hurricane Idalia.
Yeah, but ahead of landfall, state officials are pushing Floridians to pay attention to warnings from state and local agencies. Our Tallahassee Bureau reporter Libby Dean has more from the State Agency Operations Center.
We're about a day out from Idalia hitting Florida, and here at the state EOC, they have been prepping for around a week now. Governor DeSantis earlier today saying now is the time to act before it's too late.
I think everybody on that Gulf Coast from Tampa Bay up until Northwest Florida must remain vigilant.
The clock's ticking for Floridians to hunker down ahead of Idalia's landfall. State officials this morning warning of record-level winds and life-threatening storm surge.
You run from the water and you hide from the wind. If you're there in that storm surge, you're putting your life in jeopardy.
So far, 25,000 linemen are staged for power outages and thousands more getting ready.
The storm is going to be here very soon. By this time tomorrow morning, we will pretty much lock down the EOC.
In the state capitol, officials say only essential government operations will continue, but even that could change with Idalia inching closer. 49 counties are now under that state of emergency, and Governor DeSantis will be back here later this evening with more updates. That's latest out here at the state EOC. I'm Libby Dean, 8 on your side.
And as you've heard, the projected path takes Idalia north of Cedar Key, but that coastal city may see some of the worst impacts from the storm surge and the winds. That's where Jeff Patterson joins us live tonight, hearing from multiple business owners out there. Hi, Jeff.
Good evening, Josh. Cedar Key is just a beautiful little community that sticks out into the Gulf of Mexico. All of these businesses are closed right now. The owners have boarded up. They've gotten off of the island. I can tell you I have been on Cedar Key for some pretty big storms before, notably Hurricane Hermine in 2016, Hurricane Elsa in 2021, and those storms caused significant flooding damage in this downtown area. But people I've talked to today are even more concerned about this storm.
In downtown Cedar Key today, people spent their day getting ready, loading kitchen equipment and essentials onto trailers to take out of town. Jordan Keaton, the owner of 83 West, spent his day preparing his business for the approaching storm.
Walk me through it. Show me what you've done here.
So basically the electronics that are going to be hard to move, we're trying to keep those from splashes and, getting hit by too much water.
Keaton and his employees moved anything that can move upstairs. They covered electronics with plastic.
This is pretty creative. This is actually a very good solution that I haven't seen before. Your electrical panel here, your television set here, you've done that. I just saw one of your folks removing the taps from the kegs. You've removed everything from down here.
Yeah, so everything comes out of the first floor. We had a real bad storm with Hurricane Hermine years ago, and that came up probably about your chest height.
Hurricane Hermine flooded downtown Cedar Key. Keaton tried to build his business to withstand that kind of storm.
All the drywall was taken out and everything's been put in with Duroc. Everything is made to get wet.
Now he just hopes all of this will still be here when he returns after the storm.
We're taking it seriously. Hermine did an extreme amount of damage, and that was, just a Cat 1 storm.
He was right about Hermine. I can remember walking not too far from here in my hip waders, and the storm surge was about here. There is higher ground to retreat to if the storm surge gets very serious tonight. Of course, we're hoping it doesn't quite get to that point here. Live in Cedar Key, Jeff Patterson, 8 on your side.
And there are mandatory evacuations in Hernando County, west of US 19. Officials there say they're concerned about a potentially life-threatening storm surge from the hurricane. Justin Schecker joins us. He's live from Shoreline Boulevard. That's in Hernando Beach. Justin.
Stacy, good afternoon to you. Several businesses here in Hernando Beach, like the Sunset Grill behind me, have already closed. You can see the sandbags left here by the front door. Now, flooding from a potential 6 to 9 foot storm surge is the major concern in this coastal community. Now, as we arrived in Hernando Beach this afternoon, there are signs reminding residents of the evacuation orders. I just spoke with a homeowner who's lived here since 2016 as he prepares to evacuate with his family. He's also placed sandbags in front of his garage and behind his home. He also tells me he's moved his boat and other vehicle further inland to be safe. He says he's taken his wife and son to a hotel in Newport Richey for at least the next 2 nights.
You know what? If I wasn't worried about it, I wouldn't be leaving. So with the surge, I'm worried about the surge. In 16, it actually came up on the back porch, and that's probably about an 8-foot surge. So with it possibly being 9 or 10 foot, it's just not worth taking a chance.
And that Hernando Beach homeowner went on to say property can be replaced. Now, the county has opened up 4 shelters at local schools. One of them is pet friendly, and another one has been designated for people with special needs. Reporting live in Hernando Beach, I'm Justin Shecker, 8 on your side.
And moving a little farther south to Pinellas County now.
Yeah, News Channel 8's Lenny Supal is in Clearwater, hearing from a family who lives right near the water. She joins us now live with the very latest out there. Lenny.
Good afternoon. Yeah, we're here on Clearwater, and right now the water is pretty quiet, but the wind picking up quickly very much over the last hour. And it's Edgewater Drive that's a big concern, especially with this being a flood-prone area. We are in evacuation zone A right now, and we spoke to several families here on Granada Street. They are finishing their last-minute preparations before the storm sets in. Many plan on evacuating, and they are heeding the warnings from that evacuation order, but some are staying behind. Those who do say to be careful and take those warnings seriously have been here for decades, and they have seen the brunt of a storm and what it can do, especially along Edgewater Street.
I've seen the worst right here with the New England storm on Edgewater Drive. The entire street was completely underwater. So everyone had to go around the whole neighborhood to get elsewhere they were going. The entire street was underwater. So that was probably the worst I've ever seen around here.
Now, this community, very tight-knit. Many are going door to door to make sure that those who are elderly or who may need special care have the assistance they need, especially when it comes to making sure those have their generations in order. So a lot of hands on deck out here, a great community spirit. And of course, we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the evening. Reporting live in Clearwater tonight, Lenny Supal, 8 on your side.
Uber is helping Pinellas County residents get to evacuation shelters for free. All you have to do is use the promo code Idalia Relief before you request the ride. You must select the destination as a state-approved shelter in order to take advantage.
As we continue our Hurricane Idalia coverage, we want to let you know a popular tool is back up to monitor the storm.
Yeah, we're talking about the real-time Wobble tracker. Now, this Wobble tracker will be on our website continuously along with our live stream, where you can now ask JB Buno your important questions.
Plus, we're hearing from a woman who is rebuilding from Hurricane Ian a year ago. Her message to other Floridians next.
If you're buzzed and doing this to make yourself feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive.
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales. El tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
I'm an actor in an ad that was given 12 seconds to remind you that if you're high, just don't drive. Because if you feel different, you drive different. It's illegal to drive high everywhere anyway.
Best Reviews is an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on just about everything. For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
consultation.
As Hurricane Idalia makes its way toward Florida, you may have a lot of different questions about preparing and even about the storm itself. We were just talking about the storm surge.
Especially if you just moved here. That's one thing. Our WFLA Now team is streaming online right now to help answer some of those questions. Let's go to WFLA Now's JB Buno. He joins us live from our stream center. JB.
Yeah, hey there, Josh. Hey there, Stacy. We are answering a lot of questions across all of our platforms on Tracking the Tropics on WFLA.com alongside meteorologist Eric Stone. We are here for you to answer your questions, folks, no matter where you are, including internationally. Yeah, that's right. We're getting questions from abroad. Cloud9 on YouTube Live just put this in a few minutes ago, saying hashtags for us both. I'm from the UK, but I have a vacation home in Tampa. What do you think the wind speeds will be in Tampa at landfall? How much storm surge, Josh, as you noted? Eric, what do we say for this question coming in from the UK?
Yeah, definitely in the Tampa Bay area, possibility of 4 to 6 foot of storm surge, and that does include Tampa Bay itself as well as the outlying Pinellas County coastline. As far as winds, definitely expecting tropical storm force wind gusts to start overnight tonight, and the possibility of tropical storm force sustained wind, but I don't think we're going to be anywhere near hurricane force gust at all. So I'd say about 50 to 60 mile per hour gust here in Tampa.
We are monitoring every little micro movement when it comes down to Idalia as it gets closer to Category 2 strength. Kayla Carpenter also joining us on YouTube Live asking, how close to the track is it staying? And this is one of the reasons why we have Wobble Tracker, Eric. We can monitor using WFLA.com's Wobble Tracker to monitor just how close to the track it's actually staying.
Yeah, it's actually staying pretty darn close, maybe a couple miles to the west of the track, but it's moving so quickly. It's moving to the north, and yet again, when these storms move quickly, a lot of times the models underestimate the speed, and sometimes when that happens, the storm actually moves further to the north before it takes that eastern turn, which results in a cone shifting to the west. So we'll see what happens today at 5 o'clock.
We've had tens of thousands of comments come in. We'll get in one more here from Lee Macklin. Hashtag HJB. How far would a 6-foot storm surge be expected to penetrate inland in terms of miles? Am I safe from storm surge 4 miles inland in Venice, Florida?
Yes, of course. Imagine a 6-foot wall of water on the beach. It crashes on the beach. Maybe it goes a tenth of a mile or less for 6 feet, right? So you're 4 miles inland. You definitely have nothing to worry about in regards to storm surge. In fact, Ian had a 16 to 18 foot storm surge at Fort Myers Beach, and that made it about a mile inland.
You know, what's up with all the I names, Eric? You know, people in our comment section want to know, including an individual by the name of Ivan wants to know, what's up with all the I hurricanes? We actually once had a Hurricane Ivan of note, Ian, Irma, and here we are with Idalia. It's these I storms that are really just messing with us.
I have to agree with Jeff, though. Iota, not really an I storm, even though it's the Greek alphabet. But that was another storm that we had to worry about. Yeah. I think once we get past the I, then maybe we're safe for the season, right?
I'm sure. Yeah, let's hope so. Look, as far as your questions, we're here on WFLA.com, the WFLA YouTube page, all of our social media platforms. Come join us. The 5 o'clock advisory is coming out soon.
We've got the latest on Hurricane Idalia. You can see Category 1 storm, maximum winds right at 90 miles per hour, starting to look a little more organized. Every once in a while, we're seeing a hint that maybe an eye wall is clearing out, so we'll have a clear center of circulation that we can see on the satellite. It's moving to the north at 15 miles per hour. That's booking it for a storm. That is good news for effects because it's not sitting there stalling out, bringing lots of rainwater. It's going to move by very quickly. So whatever you experience over the next 24 hours, you will experience it more briefly than if it were moving more slowly. There's National Hurricane Center still calling for a Category 3 landfall just to the west of Cedar Key. All of the forecast models are just west of that, though, so I wouldn't be surprised to see not only the track tighten up a little bit with the next update at 5 o'clock in about 40 minutes, but also maybe incrementally shift to the west a bit. And so any incremental shifts to the west are good for us because that means that the storm will be further away from us when it passes by, and the effects lesser and lesser the further west it goes. Now, if it stays on the current track or if it wobbles off to the east, we could expect that our either we could see it increasing if it wobbles to the east or maintaining following that center track. This storm has been relatively well behaved as far as following predictions, and so we're not seeing anything out there that would cause that to change anytime soon. Very cloudy in Apollo Beach. They've gotten a couple of rounds of rain amounting to just under 1/3 of an inch so far. Pretty comfortable temperatures out there. Here's a look at Max Defender 8 right now, the rain bands that are moving through. So we're getting some lighter rain in St. Pete, Bradenton, and Sarasota. Northport's getting a dry moment. And so this afternoon, moving into the evening, we'll have these rain bands push through, and it'll be occasionally stormy at times, but then you'll get a break in the rain, and then the next round rolls through. And as we progress through the evening hours, we'll get less of a break in between the rain bands until it's full-on storm time. And so when we're taking a look at what this storm is doing out over the Gulf right now, we do have a couple of buoys. Earlier, this was registering a 20-foot wave at buoy 42097, and we're seeing about a 12-foot wave down near the Keys. And we were watching the southernmost point camera a bit earlier, and some of the waves were crashing over the dock there onto the buoy marker. Closer to home, we've got some 10-foot waves. That's about 80 miles out. And then the Egmont entrance there, just under 7 feet. We've got some 17-mile-per-hour winds sustained in Venice, as well as 29 miles just offshore. So pretty windy conditions out there offshore, and it's a lot calmer to the north. The winds have not started to pick up across the Nature Coast yet. Hour by hour, let's break it down. By 10 o'clock, we've got some serious rain bands moving through. The winds are really starting to pick up. The storm's getting closer to us. Notice we still have offshore winds through 2 a.m., so we're still not worried about storm surge through 2 a.m. It's not until the eye either gets even with you and the winds shift or passes you just a little bit to the north that the winds change and start to drive water up into our bays, initially from the south and then straight on shore by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And this is when we're worried about surge after sunrise on Wednesday morning, when those winds shift and start to become more onshore. Now that will happen earlier in our southern counties and later in our northern counties, but surge moves in pretty fast. That's another thing that you should know. It's not tsunami fast, but once you see it, it starts to increase. So we're going to see the storm surge becoming an issue tomorrow morning and sticking with us as those onshore that onshore flow continues into the early afternoon hours, which is around the time of the second high tide, which we're already worried about high tide flooding before the storm, and now we're adding storm surge on top of that because of the supermoon. So that increase in onshore winds tomorrow, a flooding day. Unfortunately, the tide's never really going to go out after the morning high tide. Now, as we move, the storm moves away from us, a trail of moisture is left across the state, and so we just get scattered passing showers that'll keep us a little bit cooler as we're all cleaning our yards up on Thursday and Friday. That we do get drier as we move into the weekend. In terms of wind gusts, hour by hour, walking you through what you can expect, the winds start to pick up in that 30-mile-per-hour range along our coastline by 9 p.m., much later for the Nature Coast, and by 10 p.m., we're getting closer to 40-mile-per-hour winds, and we see those tropical storm force winds, but not severe winds across the land. Most of that remains offshore, and then we do start to get closer to Cedar Key around 5 a.m., 60-mile-per-hour winds, and then once the storm moves past us, our winds go down. They remain onshore, but that's when we see the winds really picking up, possibly 100 miles per hour in Perry at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. So that's what we're looking at. Wanted to show you how it looks on your 8-day forecast before we went. Widespread rain tomorrow and for parts of Thursday. We dry out just in time for the Labor Day weekend, and of course the heat is back with a vengeance in those low 90s.
Thanks, Rebecca. We want to check back in with some of our News Channel 8 teams now. We have them lined up all along the Gulf Coast monitoring the storm in the Bay Area. Annie Mapp right now is live at Holmes Beach in Manatee County. How's it looking down there? I heard there were some pretty serious gusts, and I see some people taking advantage of it in the water.
Stacey, it's been pretty windy here, but thankfully the rain has sort of slowed down. And surprisingly, there have been some people out here who have been taking advantage, I guess, of these waves. As you can see, I would say at least 10 people since we've been out here the last 30 minutes or so. But leaders here at Manatee County Emergency Operations Center say their biggest concern with Idalia is just flooding. They say they are already seeing the impact at Anna Maria Island and also Longboat Key with some flooded flooded roads there, officials say they have teams throughout the county that will help block off roads that do become flooded. Now, as of 3 this afternoon, more than 300 people have evacuated to general population shelters here in the county. The 3 shelters open are pet friendly. Those are Mills, Miller, and Freedom Elementary. Now, county leaders are urging people who live in mobile homes, manufactured homes, and RVs to please evacuate, as it may not be safe enough to do so once the conditions worsen.
You've made a mistake and you didn't evacuate, please do not hesitate to call 911. We will mark your address and make sure that we have noted where you are so that when it is safe for responders to come out, we can go to that location and make sure that you are okay.
Now, officials say the best step that you can take is to evacuate before it gets dark. Right now, there are mandatory evacuations for everyone in Zone A and voluntary evacuations for people in Zone B. But again, if you're in a mobile home, manufactured home, or an RV, they are asking you to please go to a shelter or somewhere safe to get out of the storm. If you do have any questions here in Manatee County, they have an operations center set up, and you can dial 311 to get any information. Reporting live at Holmes Beach, Annie Map 8 on your side.
Now, as this storm approaches, homeowners insurance is on many minds. Some homeowners who suffered damage in last year's hurricane are now just getting back on their feet. Our consumer investigator Shannon Benkin joins us now with one woman's story. Shannon.
Josh, I'm in downtown Tampa along the riverfront, and as people are preparing for this storm, people are concerned about the possibility of rising rivers and rising bay. They're concerned about storm surge, and the woman you're about to hear tells me that she was stunned at how difficult it was for her to rebuild after last year's storm.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it doesn't make a right turn.
Amy Long is braced for the arrival of Hurricane Idalia, hopeful that it treats her Valrico home better than Hurricane Ian did nearly a year ago. When I met Amy last year, this tree had smashed into her home and through her pool cage. She tells me her insurance company at first denied coverage for the pool area.
So the tree fell in the pool, and that was where the majority of the damage was. They didn't want to cover any of the damage to the pool or to the concrete around it.
Were you surprised at how difficult that insurance process was?
Yes, because we were literally ghosted for months without a call back or anything. And I would call every day. No one would return the calls. And then finally, when they did, we were just told that it wasn't covered.
Amy tells me her insurance company argued the screened area wasn't covered. But after she filed a complaint with Florida's Department of Insurance, the company had a change of heart. She tells me the pool area was just fixed 2 months ago. What did you learn that could help other people?
Don't give up and just keep fighting. That's what I had to do. I didn't take no for an answer. And you just get ready to fight because they clearly didn't want to pay.
Amy's story is a reminder to not only fight for your rights, but also to get out your insurance information and know what your deductible is. I'm Shannon Benkin, 8 on your side.
All right, thanks so much for that. We are going to take a quick break.
And our Hurricane Idalia coverage continues in about 3 minutes.
When it comes to protecting your home, there's one name you can count on, Handyman Roofing. With over 40 years of experience, we are the roofing experts you need. Is your roof in need of repair? Don't wait until it's too late. Our team of professionals can handle any roofing issue, big or small. And if it's time for a complete roof replacement, we've got you covered. Call us today at 1-866-853-3770.
Get things done. Count on Handyman Roofing to get it done. Handyman Roofing to get it done.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I'm an actor in an ad that was given 12 seconds to remind you that if you're high, just don't drive. Because if you feel different, you drive different. It's illegal to drive high everywhere anyway.
Best Reviews is an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on just about everything.
Call that a plasma sword?
For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
Veterans, whatever you're going through, don't wait. Reach out.
Everybody in my house knows how to ride a bike except me. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
They can't.
Live, this is News Channel 8 at 4 on your side.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Josh Benson.
And I'm Stacey Scheibel. Thank you for joining us for our continuing coverage. 8 is on your side as we are in the final hours of preps before Hurricane Idalia makes landfall along the Gulf Coast.
And we begin with our Max Defender 8 team with a look at the storm's current path and the timing. Let's go to Jeff Barradelli for the latest.
You know, coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to get the new advisory from the National Hurricane Center. The minute we get it, we will have it right here. Now, our hurricane hunter's actually en route into the storm. Just on the edge of the storm, you'll see the hurricane hunter appear. So far, the strongest wind that they found is 35 miles an hour. That's because they haven't gotten to the core of the storm. We'll continue to see that update, and that is going to inform the next advisory that comes out as to whether it's strengthened to a Cat 2. Right now, it's a Cat 1 storm. You can clearly see where the center is, the eye wall of the storm. I don't see that much lightning. That's good news. Less lightning, better news. That means it's not rapidly strengthening yet, but you can clearly see the inner circle right now. The system is moving north and behaving. It is not moving northeast towards our area right now, and it looks like it's going to be making landfall right at the apex of Appalachia Bay. And, of course, the problem with that is, look at the contour of the bay right there. All the water is going to be forced into a narrower and narrower area. It's very shallow, so 10 to 15 feet of surge is possible there. All right, I want to show you the forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. Winds 90 miles an hour. It still makes it a Cat 1 storm. It's moving north at 15. It'll actually probably pick up in speed a little bit overnight tonight. It's predicted to be a Cat 2 by around 8 o'clock tonight, so we should see that in the next few hours when it's well to the southwest of Tampa. Notice, obviously, none of our area is actually in the cone right now. This storm is headed north, and it's going to pass well to the northwest of our viewing area, which ends at Crystal River. But we're going to see very big impacts along the Nature Coast, especially tomorrow as the wind switches onshore and it pushes all that water into very shallow areas. Could see as much as 8 to 10 feet of storm surge in our northern county, so keep that in mind. That can be life-threatening storm surge. When it makes landfall, it's predicted to be not just a Cat 3, but a strong Cat 3, almost borderline Cat 4, and because it'll have upward momentum strengthening as it gets towards landfall, it's going to take a while for it to unwind and weaken, which means hurricane-force winds will be found all the way into Georgia, and that means places like Tallahassee, St. Mark's, obviously, Lake City. Hurricane-force winds are likely in those areas. For us, tornado threat on the eastern side. Now, earlier, we had some tornado warnings around Naples in one of the outer bands. Later tonight, as the outer bands become a lot more frequent around here, we have a moderate risk for fast-moving tornadoes. As soon as we get a tornado warning, we will break into programming right here. Of course, we'll be with you all evening, and we will tell you exactly where that tornado is and where it's going with our live Max Defender 8 radar. A lower threat for tornadoes to the east. So take a look at Max Defender 8 radar right now. You can see the circulation of the storm behaving. It is far offshore, but again, as we head through the evening hours, we're going to see more of these frequent squalls move through. Just the very outer squalls now moving through Spring Hill with some heavy rain and some breezy winds, and we also have another squall that's moving through southern parts of our area right now. Now moving into Polk County around Frostproof and Fort Meade, but pretty soon, these are moving fast, it's going to be headed towards Bartow, Lakeland, and also into Lake Wales. That's Check Your Radar right now. We're going to send it over to Rebecca Barry, and she's going to have more on your local impacts. Rebecca?
Yes, and so we're depending on how close the system comes to us. This is the center line. Of course, we know that storms don't often follow the center line of the cone, but if it were to take a more eastern track, we would see the effects across our area amplified. A more western track, they would be toned down just a bit. But here's what we can expect: coastal areas versus inland areas. And so coastal areas certainly going to see the worst. Tropical storm force winds are likely. We're talking looking 30 to 60 miles per hour. Not much above 70 miles per hour, but if we do get some 70-mile-per-hour gusts, they'll be right along the coastline. Storm surge flooding will be the worst in Citrus with 8 to 12 feet. In Pasco and Hernando, it's 6 to 9 feet. In Pinellas and Hillsborough, we're looking, 3 to 5 for Hillsborough, 4 to 7 for Pinellas. And then as we make our way into our southern areas around Sarasota and Manatee, 2 to 4 to 3 to 5, and then 4 to 8 inches of rain. Now, our inland areas, you're not going to worry about storm surge, not going to worry about rain flooding either. You'll see periods of heavy rain in those bands, 2 to 4 inches, isolated higher amounts if you get some training storms, and then 20 to 40 mile per hour sustained winds with a 50 mile per hour wind gust or two. And a few tornadoes are possible across our inland areas, but the threat is lower. Let's talk about power outages. And so this shows the timing when you could see some power outages. So it's based on wind because that's what blows trees down and breaks things in half and that sorts of thing and starts to affect power. And so we start to see a moderate risk of some power outages by 3 a.m. in Manatee and Sarasota counties, and then a more widespread low risk. Then it moves into Pinellas in the 4 a.m. hour. That's when we have the best chances for power outages to start there. It continues to track northward, closer to Pasco by 5 a.m. and by 7 a.m. we've got a widespread low risk for inland Citrus and Hernando counties, and we start to see the winds pick up along the coastline again by 9 a.m. and then all the power outage risk from that point forward moves northward of us. Now, it's not saying that the power won't continue to be out. This is the start time of a power outage. We can't predict the fixed times weather-wise. That's a human element there. And so your estimated rainfall totals looking a lot heavier along the coastline than our inland areas, but it's beneficial rain where we need it the most, right there along the coast. We'll take an in-depth look at your 8-day forecast coming up next.
All right, Rebecca, thanks for that. Now, all of our News Channel 8 reporters are spread out all across the Gulf Coast to keep track of this storm and what it's going to do. We want to go north to our friends in Crystal River, Homosassa Springs, that area in Citrus County.
Yeah, let's start with Jack Royer. He is in Citrus County tonight. Jack, what are you seeing there?
Stacey, Josh, it is hot and sunny right now, but everyone here is very well aware of what is about to be here, and I'll tell you why. We've seen folks coming out today. This is Kings Bay. The Gulf of Mexico is probably 5 or 10 miles behind us. The winds are starting to pick up. They've done so over the past few hours, and I want to show you the water levels that already exist here. This is a dive shop just off Highway 19. You can see it is right up to the docks here. Now, my photojournalist, A.J. Morgan, was noting earlier that the water has seemed to subside a little bit right now, but over in the parking lot where we are parked right now, there's already water there because of these high tides and everything. I was speaking to Rebecca Berry earlier to try to find a safe place to be for us to cover the storm here in Citrus County, and she was warning us once again about those expected storm surges near 9 feet. Take a look at some video we've been gathering earlier today to show you what this looked like when we arrived here, and the businesses that we've been seeing. We don't have that video, but we'll bring it to you later on. Folks are already using sandbags to stack up against windows and doors to try to prevent flooding. I just spoke to the Citrus County Sheriff moments ago. We'll have an interview to play for you in just a little while, but he was warning people about the fact that there will be people who do not evacuate, and they have no ability. If you are one of those people, they will not be able to help you until this storm has passed. When winds reach 45 miles an hour by policy, their department is not able to be out on the roadways, so they are really encouraging people to heed these warnings, avoid being trapped in your home in flooding and in storm surge, and get out while you can. As for us, no outer bands of rain yet. The sun's still peeking through, but plenty of reason to be concerned, and we've noticed plenty of people are prepared so far. We just hope there is no one that doesn't take the necessary precautions here in Citrus County, and we'll be following it all for you. Live in Citrus County, Jack Royer, 8 on your side.
And in two areas of Pasco County, residents are also bracing for several feet of storm surge. Mandatory Zone A evacuations are in effect there. And Stacey DeSilva joins us live in Newport Richey in Pasco County right now. And it's pretty clear behind you, but that area is also supposed to get a walloping.
That's right, Stacey. A couple outer bands have come through with some rainfall that came and went, but the big concern, of course, is that storm surge. So joining me now is Newport Richey Mayor Chopper Davis. Now, Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. We are alongside this river here. I know you're concerned about when storm surge kicks in. mandatory evacuations are in effect. What's your message to people who are on the fence about evacuating even still?
Okay, well, what we're dealing with is a Zone A, and Zone A is anything from the river here, which basically in town is a north-south, and all the way over to the Gulf. Well, that's all Zone A, and we want those people to evacuate. The river does go down about from where we're at Sims Park, about 3/4 of a mile, and that heads east, and all those people down there are in Zone A too, and we really need them to evacuate. That's probably the most important part, and it's all going to happen pretty much in the evening. We're going to get that 6 to 9 foot surge, so that's real important that people make plans and get out of town early. We have our preparation team already in force. We have a plan already in place, but the teams got together in the last 3 days, and that's pretty much the city manager, the police, the fire, and the public works, and they're working together right now to help everybody get out of the Zone A area especially, and to deal with anything that might come about while this storm's on. But once it gets dark, that our response team is not going to be able to help you, because we're not going to be able to see whether there's street lights down, telephone lines down, power lines down. So if you need help, we need to help you now before it gets dark. So anything, just call our Public Works Department. We'll come out and help you. And of course, afterwards, we'll have after storm response team that'll be able to help you too.
6 to 9 feet of storm surge. Have you ever experienced anything like this here? When was the last time you've been this concerned about storm surge in Newport Richey?
Well, I was here with a no-name storm in '93, and that brought water right up to 19. We were using John boats and jet skis to get people out of their houses. There was no forewarning that was coming. We saw a storm coming across the Gulf, but we didn't know it was going to shove the water up and put it that high. Well, that same 6 to 9 foot surge is going to do the same thing. The people on the river, anybody along 19, anybody west of the river, or down further south when it goes east and west on the north and south side of the river down there.
Mayor, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're very busy. You heard it from him, possibly the most concerning storm surge in 30 years. So if you are going to take action, which you should, if you're in Zone A, now is the time to do it. That's from the mayor right there. Reporting live in Newport Richey, I'm Stacey DeSilva, 8 on your side.
Good information. Thanks, Stacey. Well, tolls are now suspended for counties expected to be impacted by Idalia. There will be no tolls in Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lake, Pasco, Pinellas, and Sumter counties. Toll collections will be reinstated at noon on Tuesday, September 5th. Also, Express Oil Change and Tire locations is making sure you don't break down as you evacuate. Locations are offering free vehicle inspections to evacuees. It's a 20-point inspection program that takes less than 10 minutes to check your fluid levels, battery, wiper blades, lights, and your tire wear. Now, as Hurricane Idalia continues to intensify in the Gulf, Pinellas County leaders are urging residents to make their final preps for the storm.
Pinellas County says those evacuating should plan to be safely situated where you're going to be by 7 p.m. tonight. Everyone is advised to stay off the roads in Pinellas County after 7 p.m. until after the storm conditions subside. 8 on your side's Brittany Muller is live for us in St. Pete Beach. Have you seen some of those bands coming in, Brittany?
Stacey, we have. The rain has been on and off. There's a light drizzle right now. We are here live from St. Pete Beach. That's the Gulf of Mexico right behind me. You could see some of those white caps. This is an area that's typically prone to flooding. Right now, it's not too bad, but county leaders are expecting a storm surge, so they're asking residents to remain vigilant. We're also right next to a popular beach bar right behind me. That's Woody's. It's been open all day, packed with people. And before arriving out here at St. Pete Beach, we also were at Shore Acres, and I want to show you this video where you can see some of those roadways flooded out. And take a look at that. Cars are in about 1.5 feet of water. This is because of those first bands from Hurricane Idalia on top of the tide. You can see signs posted cautioning drivers to reduce their speeds because of those high waters. We spoke with one neighbor who is evacuating from Shore Acres to Pinellas Park ahead of this storm.
Anytime we get really high tide in St. Pete here, we get a lot of water into these streets here just because of the tide alone without any storms.
Now back out here live, businesses in this area, as you can see, are using sandbags to help prevent flooding. Now there are 10 public shelters open in the county. Also, Pinellas County leaders are anticipating power outages. Leaders say if you lose power, don't panic. You don't have to call 911 unless there's an emergency. You can report that power outage to Duke Energy by calling the 800 number or texting. And we'll be live throughout throughout South Pinellas County, reporting and bringing you the very latest. For now, reporting live from St. Pete Beach, Brittany Muller, 8 on your side.
And still to come, Hillsborough County residents who live in Zone A are under mandatory evacuation.
And 8 on your side's Masa Saidi spoke to some folks at a senior living facility about what their plans are during the storm.
When it comes to protecting your home, there's one name you can count on, Handyman Roofing. With over 40 years of experience, we are the roofing experts you need. Is your roof in need of repair? Don't wait until it's too late. Our team of professionals can handle any roofing issue, big or small. And if it's time for a complete roof replacement, we've got you covered. Call us today at 1-866-853-3770.
Get things done. Count on Handyman Roofing to get it done. Handyman Roofing to get it done.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Man, it's lonely. Going through life lonely.
There is the therapeutic aspect of music.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales, el tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
Thank you so much. Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Everybody in my house knows how to ride a bike except me. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike and you didn't? I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
News Nation is getting noticed. A remarkable expansion in viewership. These primetime numbers have erupted, sticking to the both sides playbook.
That's why News Nation is getting traction.
To find News Nation on your TV, visit joinnn.com.
As Hurricane Idalia creeps up the Gulf Coast of Mexico and makes its way toward Florida, you may have a lot of different questions about a lot of different things.
That's right. Our WFLA Now team is streaming online right now to answer some of those questions for you. WFLA Now's JB Buno joins us from the Stream Center with the latest. JB.
Yeah, hey there, Josh. Hello again, Stacy. We're here monitoring the Wobble tracker and, of course, getting ready for the 5 o'clock update, but a lot of questions coming in. I want to get right to them, and we're going to go to YouTube Live for this one from Catalina, asking about what the surge might look like near Amalie Arena and downtown Tampa, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely could see from the Hillsborough River some of that flooding a foot or 2 feet. Again, overnight tonight, but mainly as we head to the high tide tomorrow, and as the middle to latter part of the morning, as the tides creep up by lunchtime or so, we could see some of that flooding downtown.
And how about this one from Pia wanting to know about the Land O'Lakes area specifically tonight, Eric?
Yeah, so far north of downtown Tampa, so you don't have to worry about any of the storm surge or anything like that. We are looking at a couple of inches of rain, 2 to 3 inches, but I still don't think you'll see freshwater flooding. Tropical storm force wind gusts and possible sustained wind late tonight and early tomorrow morning, and then things will start to improve as we head into the afternoon on your Wednesday.
And we're going to get in one more. Kia Rylan on YouTube Live, hashtags for us both. What can we expect for the Spring Hill area?
Yeah, that's right. A little bit north of Land O'Lakes. So again, tropical storm force wind later on tonight throughout the overnight hours, but mainly through early on Wednesday with, again, a couple of inches of rain.
The 5 o'clock update, it's about to come down. New track, new intensity forecast. We'll have it all for you on Track in the Tropics across our social media platforms. We'll see you on WFLA.com, Facebook, and YouTube. We'll send it back over to you.
Max Defender 8, the most advanced weather radar in Florida.
Of course, we are about to get a new update, but just so that we have something to compare it to, it's currently with 90-mile-per-hour sustained winds, 975 millibars is that minimum central pressure, and it's moving to the north at 15 miles per hour, which is booking it for a tropical system. Normally, they move closer to that 8 to 10 mile per hour range, especially those that are building and intensifying, as this one is expected to do. And so the current track, which is about to change or at least tighten up a little bit, and we could see a small shift to the west because a lot of the forecast, almost all of the forecast models are on the western edge of this cone. And so they're still anticipating that it make it to a Category 3 strength before landfall, and then it weakens into a tropical storm over Jacksonville and moves back out into the open Atlantic by Thursday morning. So it's a fast-moving system. It will continue out into the Atlantic over the weekend, but at that point, it will be not our issue anymore. Here's a look at our current wind speeds. We've gotten some good wind speeds around 20 miles per hour in St. Pete. Sebring's had some decent wind as well, but that was thunderstorm related. It had a really big thunderstorm near it because we've seen some wind gusts. The highest have been in the 40-mile-per-hour range, but the ones with the highest within the last 15 minutes are between 22 and 31 miles per hour in terms of wind gusts. The winds are still out of the south right now, but as soon as they make the turn, which will happen once the eye passes your latitude, we have to worry about storm surge. So I'm taking you on a detailed look by area of what we expect with storm surge. And so this is up in Citrus County where the worst will be. And so well past 19, they're expecting 9 feet and above of storm surge. And this is actually a higher category, the gray color, that's actually 11 feet or above. And so we are expecting very high storm surge along the coastline of Crystal River, stretching all the way to 19. It does taper off after 19. Sugar Mill Woods is probably going to stay dry, but just to the west of that, not so much so. Moving down into Hernando and then Pasco, we have that widespread storm surge, but at this point, 19 is in the clear in most of Hernando County, all the way down to Weeki Wachee. Hernando Beach, though, very flooded, very storm surge, very much at risk for storm surge. Down into Pasco County, it's a little bit more pinned to the coast. It's kind of like 19 is the divider there. To the west of 19, storm surge. To the east of 19, most likely staying dry. Now, there are some canals and pockets, especially with our consistent onshore winds, where we will see some storm surge flooding. You can see them there. And as we make our way down a little bit further south than that, I wanted to point out how far inland from Tarpon Springs we were going to get storm surge. It's because the onshore winds are going to force a high volume of water into our waterways and hold it there. And so where it gets funneled and where it stops, that's where we'll see the highest storm surges inland. So this is an example of what could be considered inland storm surge just to the west of Tarpon Springs. Down in Innisbrook and Palm Harbor, you guys aren't looking as bad. You still have that 5 to 8 foot storm surge in some cases, but a lot of 3 to 5 foot as well. Clearwater mainly in that 3 to 5 and 5 to 8 range. Not a lot of reds, but a couple of peaks here and there. Over in Safety Harbor and Oldsmar, Rocky Creek, you're in that 5 to 8 foot storm surge, and 580 could be a problem at some cases. Moving down a bit and inland a bit, South Tampa, the spine of South Tampa will most likely stay dry, but especially on the western edge, you're going to get an inundation from those onshore winds. The southerly winds at first will make the base all the way over to Picnic Island Park under about 5 to 8 feet of storm surge on the edge there, but it doesn't go all the way up to Gandy. Davis Island looking at about 3 to 5 foot of storm surge, but Harbor Island's more 1 to 2 foot. And then with the onshore winds, Gibsonton, Adamville, Progress Village, Ruskin, Apollo Beach, those areas are going to see about 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Moving down a bit, it's a little bit less along our coastline, our southern coastline. You guys are mainly looking at 1 to 2 with some isolated spots hitting 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. And so we are looking at bands of rain moving through as well, and that's going to continue to be the case. It'll get pretty rainy along our coastline overnight tonight and throughout the day tomorrow, but we do start to dry out as we head into the Labor Day weekend. Temperatures return to the low 90s, and our afternoon rain chances down to 30% by next week.
Okay, thanks for that. Tonight in Hillsborough County, there is that mandatory evacuation order for people living in Zone A.
And we understand that's about 260,000 people, but are they heeding the warnings? Investigator Masa Saidi is live in Town and Country tonight. Masa, what's it looking like there?
Well, hi there, Stacey. So we've been driving all across Hillsborough County trying to see, are people taking this storm seriously? We went up and down Bayshore. There was some rain earlier. We saw no flooding. We know that about 10 shelters are open across Hillsborough County, only about 300 people inside. So my photographer Jim Hockett said, let's go to the northern tip of Tampa Bay. And here it is right behind me. You can see there's a lot of homes right alongside the water. We just got here about 10 minutes ago. So we see a couple walking. We see some kids playing behind me. You can see lots of cars are still here in driveways. evacuation zone, but by the look of those cars and these kids going by right now, it doesn't look like a lot of people have been evacuating. If you come up here, right along to the edge of the water, our meteorologists tell me that the northern tip of Tampa Bay, this is the area in Hillsborough County that is really the most at risk. This is where you could see a storm surge anywhere from 3 to 5 feet. So we'll go talk to people and try to figure out, you know, if they're leaving, if some people have left, if they haven't. But if you check out the video, some people, it's not a choice. This is a senior living facility that is very close to this station. Around 2 p.m., you could see that people were in their walkers, loading up on some buses. We talked with one woman, Susan Jonas, and she said she is not happy. She said she was being forced to evacuate. Listen to what she had to say.
Well, half the people have to go on the buses to the shelter, and then we're all going to family or hotels. I think it's silly. It is a terrible big inconvenience. It's better than dying with a hurricane, but it is a big inconvenience.
And to give you an idea, again, about 300 people in shelters right now. County officials tell me that for Hurricane Ian, there was more than 8,000 people in shelters. But I'm going to go knock on some doors, talk with some neighbors, and you can check back with me in a little bit. Reporting live in Hillsborough County, I'm investigator Masa Saidi, 8 on your side.
And preps continued well into the afternoon in some southern Bay Area counties today.
Yeah, the National Guard is spending the afternoon outside of Manatee Memorial Hospital working to protect the facility from the threat of storm surge. News Channel 8's Allison Henning live just outside of our Sarasota Manatee Bureau to explain. Allison.
So Manatee Memorial Hospital sits right along the Manatee River where there is still a chance of up to 5 feet of storm surge later tonight. The hospital says it has been preparing for this hurricane for a number of days now, stocking up on supplies, fuel, and oxygen. We told they do have enough gear to last up to 10 days, but because the hospital does sit in a low-lying area, extra resources are helping protect that property. As you mentioned, the National Guard was on site all this afternoon working to build what is known as a Tiger Dam barrier to protect some of the more vulnerable areas of the hospital from rising water from the river. The hospital's CEO says that extra layer of protection will allow staff to continue serving patients throughout the storm.
The most important thing is our staff's committed to stay in the building tonight. We'll have over 600 employees that will be staying in the building in addition to physicians so that we can remain open for emergency needs and any needs that the community has during the storm.
And if the hospital does end up losing power, we are told they do have a generator with enough capacity to keep the hospital online for up to 90 hours before having to refuel. Reporting live from the Sarasota Manatee Bureau, Allison Henning, 8 on your side.
And our Hurricane Idalia coverage continues. More county-to-county coverage straight ahead on News Channel 8 at 5.
Yep, stay close. We'll be right back with much more.
When it comes to protecting your home, there's one name you can count on, Handyman Roofing. With over 40 years of experience, we are the roofing experts you need. Is your roof in need of repair? Don't wait until it's too late. Our team of professionals can handle any roofing issue, big or small. And if it's time for a complete roof replacement, we've got you covered. Call us today at 1-866-853-3770.
Get things done. Count on Handyman Roofing to get it done. Handyman Roofing to get it done.
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales, el tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. Really just all about the money.
News Nation is getting noticed. A remarkable expansion in viewership. These primetime numbers have erupted, sticking to the both sides playbook.
That's why News Nation is getting traction.
To find News Nation on your TV, visit joinnn.com.
Review, the clearly stronger choice for you.
Live, this is News Channel 8 at 5 on your side.
Tonight, News Channel 8 continuing to track the path and the possible impacts of Hurricane Idalia as the Bay Area and much of Florida braces for this storm. Good evening. I'm Keith Tate.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us. 8 is on your side tonight with all of the information you need to keep yourself safe and informed throughout the storm. We have team coverage with crews around the Bay Area as far north as Cedar Key all the way south to Sarasota. Our crews are braving the elements and monitoring the situation in real time.
But first, let's continue tracking Hurricane Idalia with our Max Defender 8 team, our meteorologist Rebecca Berry, and our chief meteorologist Jeff Barrow-Deli standing by. And we'll send it over to you, Jeff, because I think we just got the latest track on this storm, didn't we?
Yep, just a couple of minutes ago. It is now a Cat 2 storm, has winds of 100 miles an hour, and it's likely headed towards Cat 3 status overnight tonight, making landfall as a very strong Cat 3, so a major hurricane. So this is the latest satellite loop, and it's starting to look a little more classic. Notice it has this kind of shrimp look right here. That's what we talk about in the meteorology community when we know a storm is about to really start to rapidly intensify. And you can see all the thunderstorms wrapping around the center right there. We'll zoom in a little bit closer. Notice the bright colors and all the thunderstorms developing right about there. So this is now strengthening over water temperatures about 88 to 90 degrees, and it will have those same water temperatures all the way until it gets to around St. Mark. So here it is at 2 a.m. It's basically directly west of Newport Richey, but far west of Newport Richey, and it has winds of 115 miles an hour, making it a Cat 3 storm as it continues now to move towards the north. Landfall is likely going to be somewhere around 8, 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The worst of our weather is going to be in the middle of the night tonight, so mainly late this evening, and then overnight tonight through tomorrow morning. That's when the worst of it will be for us, and the winds begin to switch on shore. So the storm's going to make landfall as a Cat 3. Tallahassee, Lake City, St. Marks, Perry, all those areas are going to be under the gun for hurricane force winds. Pretty dangerous situation, even into Georgia too, because by the time it reaches Georgia, it's moving fast enough. It has enough upward momentum to stay a Cat 1 hurricane. All right, I also want to show you where the track is. This is something Keith was just talking about too. This is the track from the National Hurricane Center, but all the spaghetti plots are on the west side of the track, so it's conceivable it could shift a little bit further towards the west. Take a look on the east side of the storm. That's a 20-foot wave, and these waves are actually going to be building offshore, and those gusts offshore to 54 miles an hour. We've seen a number of storms here in the Bay Area where we've had gusts to around 45 miles an hour already. So notice we have an offshore wind until around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Then the wind switches onshore, and it's that time the water starts to pile in. So it's tomorrow morning through tomorrow afternoon we worry about the possibility of storm surge. The latest number, 7 to 10 feet on the Nature Coast. 5 to 8 feet, Pasco County, Hernando County, 4 to 6 feet in and around Pinellas and into Hillsborough County, and around 2 to 4 feet to the south of that. That means if you're right by the water, your home could very well see a little bit of water. So let's break down the timing. Outer bands become more frequent overnight tonight. The possibility of fast tornadoes. Worst weather is late tonight through tomorrow afternoon, and then reverse surge tonight, but the biggest surge threat is during the day tomorrow. Showing you Max Defender 8 radar right now. The next big band is way offshore, so we're not going to have to worry about any big bands moving in anytime soon, but there are some heavy storms that are moving into I-4 in Polk County as we speak right now. For more on our local impacts, here's meteorologist Rebecca Berry.
And so it's that rainfall that we were most excited about when we started talking about the possibility of some tropical moisture before we knew it was going to be a hurricane, before we knew that it was going to form into a strong storm. We thought that we were going to get some excessive rain this week. Well, because it's become a stronger storm and because it's most likely going to track a little bit further west, a lot of the heaviest of the rain is offshore of us. So 7 inches of rain just offshore. Once you get closer to our coastline, it drops down to 4 inches, and then it drops down closer to 1 to 2 inches of rain after that. And so it's not the rainfall that we'd really hope for with this system, but the fact that it is moving a little bit further west from us does save us from a lot of things that we really don't like. But we're still going to get tropical storm force winds, most likely not hurricane force winds. And so when do they start? For Sarasota County, they could start around by about 7 p.m. tonight, those tropical storm force winds, ending between 6 and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Highlands, DeSoto, Hardy, and Manatee counties start to see those tropical storm force winds by 8 o'clock, and they start to end between 7 a.m. and noon for the most part. So winding down during the middle of the day for these counties. For Polk, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, and Hernando, those tropical storm force winds pick up at midnight. So you'll probably wake up to the winds blowing overnight tonight a couple of times. They start to end for Polk and Hillsborough between 9 a.m. and noon, for Pinellas and Pasco between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., and for Hernando between noon and 6. And Citrus gets the wind the latest, and it stays the longest. So it doesn't start there until around 1 a.m., and it ends tomorrow afternoon between 2 and 6 p.m. The other thing we're worried about is storm surge flooding on top of high tide. And so here's a look at some area high tides. Notice that most of us see a high tide around 1 to 3 a.m.-ish. And so that's the first real threat of storm surge, because at that point we're starting to see the onshore winds in our southern counties. Not yet for our northern counties, but our southern counties are seeing the onshore winds. And so we don't start to see the storm surge until you see the onshore winds. Once the eye passes you and the winds change, that's when you'll see them. So I think the high tides will come in and they'll be higher than normal, and we'll see some flooding, especially in our southern counties for these first high tides. But it's that second high tide. I think the tide is never really going to go out during the day tomorrow for a lot of locations because of the storm surge and that onshore push of winds. And so we'll either stay level instead of going down, or start to slowly creep up during the day, and then they will peak during the second high tide on Wednesday, in addition to the storm surge and those onshore winds, which are both going to be very significant earlier for our southern counties and a little bit less for our southern counties, and certainly a little bit later and a lot more for our northern counties with stronger winds closer to them, especially in Citrus and Hernando counties. So coming up in just a few moments, we'll be taking a breakdown on the wind speeds and when they'll really start to pick up in your neighborhood.
All right, thank you, Rebecca and Jeff. I want to show you some video right now. This is southwest Florida, parts of southwest Florida, already seeing the impacts of Hurricane Idalia. The storm's outer bands are bringing flooding to Fort Myers Beach. Boy, they've had it rough, haven't they, Jen? This video here, you can see some of the water already covering the roads in many areas, and this area, of course, still recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Ian last year. Now, Cedar Key is a place that has seen its share of storms in the past, and some of them have been pretty bad. Today, the residents of Cedar Key are preparing, though, for Idalia, which will be perhaps the worst in recent memory.
Yeah, some areas of downtown Cedar Key have experienced major flooding in previous hurricanes, and that is certainly the concern with Idalia. News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson joins us live on Cedar Key. I know you have been there for other storms, and the folks there, I hear the old-timers there are even worried now.
Good evening, Jen and Keith. Well, all of that is very true. I have been here for some major storms, and I have not seen the concern that I have seen today after talking to a number of people here. We're just on the edge of the water. You can tell people across the street, a lot of businesses downtown have boarded up. They've put sandbags down as they have prepared the best they can for this approaching storm.
At the Prickly Palm restaurant today, the owners were loading up and boarding up to get ready for the storm.
Get ready. I'm just getting all the stuff out of the business. Anything that could potentially be in the flood zone is either going up or it's going on the trailer. Anything of value, I'm trailering off island, to be honest.
Hannah Healy was not here for Hurricane Hermine or Hurricane Elsa, but she knows her business is on one of the lowest points of this island.
The Prickly Palm was not in the building when Hurricane Hermine hit, and so when we created the business, we built up the bar top, the countertop where customers come to order, higher than the water levels.
Hermine brought major flooding to downtown businesses in 2016. The concern for this storm is a storm surge that is projected to be higher than Hermine.
Obviously, we're going to have winds and things like that, but most people here have metal roofs and stuff like that are made for it. But my main concern is just the flooding and just stuff getting carried away.
And it's not just the building and the contents they are worried about. It's their friends and neighbors.
I'm hoping they're all taking the proper precautions to get ready as well. But if not, hey, we'll help them. You know, that's what we do here. We help each other out in hard times.
I can tell you one of the things that we've seen here before in Cedar Key is literally the mayor of Cedar Key going out in the middle of a hurricane in his personal John boat to rescue people that he knew on the second floor of buildings. We certainly hope it doesn't come to that for this storm, but I will show you something they have done here that is a little bit unique and very smart. Those copper lines are normally going to propane gas tanks. They have removed those propane gas tanks so that they don't float away or cause fire and explosion. That'll just tell you the level to which people have prepared for this approaching storm. Live in Cedar Key, Jeff Patterson, 8 on your side.
Thank you, Jeff. And FEMA is warning Floridians of deadly storm surge that will be produced by Hurricane Idalia. A spokesperson tells us teams are prepared to distribute food and water and work on restoring power in the wake of this storm. But the most important thing right now is for people to have a plan and evacuate when ordered.
Very few people can survive being in the path of major storm surge, and this storm will be deadly if we don't get out of harm's way and take it seriously. So I ask all Floridians to be vigilant and heed the warnings of your local officials.
Again, that advice from FEMA today, and President Biden also saying that he has been in constant contact with our governor, Ron DeSantis, and is working to provide Florida with everything it needs.
Governor DeSantis says Florida is ready for Hurricane Idalia, but ahead of landfall, state officials are pushing Floridians to pay attention to the warnings from state and local agencies and to prepare for the worst.
If you're in the path of this storm or even outside the cone, you know, there's a good chance you're going to lose power. There's going to be a lot of people working to restore that, but just be prepared for that to happen and make sure you're doing what you need to do for yourself and your family. Okay.
Always be charging, too, those phones and devices. So far, 25,000 line crews are staged with thousands more on standby. 49 counties are currently under a state of emergency, and shelters continue to open across the state. Emergency officials will be giving regular updates as Idalia closes in. Meantime, Hernando County issued mandatory evacuation orders anything west of US 19.
Yeah, we've seen people actually packing up and heading out already there. News Channel 8's Justin Shecker spoke with a family who's doing that. Justin is joining us from Hernando Beach right now. Justin, what's it like there? And you've been speaking to some folks about this.
Keith and Jen, good evening to you both. The wind is actually starting to pick up at this hour. Now, families here in Hernando Beach, they're used to the water rising when a hurricane or tropical storm moves up the Gulf Coast. That's why the homeowner I just met told me he is not taking any chances for Hurricane Idalia arrives. How worried are you about this storm?
You know what? If I wasn't worried about it, I wouldn't be leaving. So with the surge, I'm worried about the surge.
Hernando Beach homeowner Kurt Widmer is preparing to evacuate his family before Hurricane Idalia. He says he's taken his wife and son to a hotel in Newport Richey for at least the next 2 nights. His neighborhood is prone to flooding, so he's stacking sandbags around his home before he leaves.
I'm 2 foot up out in the front, and in the back, I'm probably going to go about 4 foot because that's where the water's going to come from.
Widmer says many of his neighbors are following the evacuation orders for residents who live west of US 19. He's also moved his boat and SUV away from this coastal community that could come under 6 to 9 feet of storm surge.
All my vehicles are already moved over to the parking lot across 19. The only thing I got in a garage is a motorcycle up on a lift.
And Hernando County officials are expected to provide an update on Facebook Live at 5:30. They are urging residents to evacuate now. The county has also opened 4 shelters at local schools. One of them is pet-friendly, and another one has been designated for people with special needs. Live in Hernando Beach, I'm Justin Shecker, 8 on your side.
All right, thank you, Justin. Now we want to go to Clearwater Beach. Officials there, we can see, getting ready for Idalia by moving these lifeguard towers. That bulldozer towing one of the towers. I'm assuming they're going to a spot on higher ground on the sand somewhere.
Yeah, safe to say.
The biggest concern in Pinellas County, of course, is the flooding there.
Volunteer groups are going around helping businesses and residents get prepared. News Channel 8's Lenny Supal is there live. What have you seen so far, Lenny?
Good afternoon. Yeah, we saw those volunteers. We'll hear from them in just a moment. But right now in downtown Clearwater, it is quiet. Many heeding that warning, the mandatory evacuation to clear out of this area. So businesses boarded up for the day. We do see that there is one business that is open. It's Downtown Pizza, and there are a few customers coming in and out of there. But the volunteers, you see a few right there, they are making sure that everyone is prepared. In the last minute, preparations are in place for those businesses. They're getting a little help from this group of volunteers who are going the extra mile to make sure everyone is safe, especially as the window to prepare closes.
Hundreds of man hours to assist the community here. This is our home, our community, so it's part of our mission as a church to help the community. So it's the satisfaction of making sure that everybody is safe during the storm.
And Pinellas County reminding everyone that 4 to 7 feet of storm surge is expected. We spoke to residents earlier today, some evacuating, some choosing to stay put. We'll hear from them in our next hour. Reporting live in Pinellas County, Lenny Supal, 8 on your side.
All right, thank you, Lenny. And we want to show you something right now. If you're near your television set, take a good look here, because at any point, you lose power, you don't have the television, cell phone coverage, or internet service, you can still get news updates from News Channel 8 right on your iHeart radio stations. You can see them right there listed on the screen. This is throughout the Tampa Bay area.
And let's take a live look right now at Cedar Key in Levy County. Do we have that live shot? No, we don't.
No. Well,
do you want to take a live look at the radar at this moment? There we go. You see a good picture right there of Idalia spinning well offshore right now, making its way up the coast of Florida, spreading some rain bands across the interior at the moment while the coast remains largely dry.
And our chief meteorologist, Jeff Baradelli, is watching all of it, and he'll be back with more of our coverage right after this.
Ooh, pretty colors.
Best Reviews is an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on just about everything. For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales, el tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
All right, everybody, so let's take a look at what's happening with Idalia right now. And as you can see, there is the spin. Now, We're not seeing rapid intensification yet. That's good news. If we were, we'd see a lot of lightning around the center. There's been a little bit, but not too much. Now, we do expect it to continue to intensify, and at some point it may rapidly intensify right before it gets to land. So this will be an intensifying storm when it makes landfall right here at the peak of Appalachia Bay. That's a problem because all the water gets funneled in to a narrow area and a shallow area. That's why they're forecasting about 10 to 15 feet of storm surge north of Cedar Key. So around Cedar Key and north, that's a lot of storm surge. In our area, on the Nature Coast, we could see as much as 7 to 10 feet of surge. Not out of the question. Let me show you local radar. We'll get back to the storm in a couple of seconds. So there is the storm. You can see the eye wall right there. Now, the heaviest bands of weather are still way offshore. It's going to take a couple more to a few more hours for all this to propagate towards places like Pinellas County, Sarasota County along the coast, Bradenton. But we do have some outer bands moving through parts of our area right now. I want to show you one that's crossing right over I-4. And by the way, these outer bands are producing wind gusts to 47 miles an hour. So these have some really gusty winds, quick hitting, heavy downpours, and also, as you can see, a little bit of lightning. There's not many of them, but when they move through, they move in and out very quick. 1 second, it's perfectly calm. The next second, it really is blowing. The next second, it's gone. You know how it's like in, you know how it usually is like in those tropical storm and those tropical wind gusts. And you can see we have some heavy downpours also in the Crystal River area right now. So this is a look at the future radar, and you can see this storm is actually going to be making its way to the north over the next 24 hours or so, headed towards the Tallahassee area. And as it moves that way, we're going to see the storm make its way right into the bay in that area. All right, Crystal River, 80 degrees is the current temperature right now. We just had a squall that moved through. You're already starting to clear up. A second ago, I looked at this camera and very squally weather was moving through. Now it's gone. If you want to send us weather pictures or video, you can send it right here, weather@WFLA.com. As the night goes on, just keep yourself safe. You can send it to us. We'll try to show it on the air. All right, why don't I show you the hour-by-hour forecast from one of our computer models. And here we are. Notice the biggest bands, even at 8 o'clock tonight, still offshore, but beginning to make their way onshore right here. Here we are at 11 o'clock, and that band, that really strong band, is now right up against the coast, and the worst of it moves in 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when we're going to see those wind gusts past 60 miles an hour or so. Heaviest rain along the coast, a little bit less as you head further inland, and definitely those isolated tornadoes as well. Here comes landfall. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., still offshore. Worst of the weather is on the Nature Coast, all the way down to Pinellas County, but the core of the storm making landfall to the east of St. Mark's, right around Perry. That's where the strongest winds will be. It moves onshore just to the east of Tallahassee, just to the west of Lake City. I know a lot of us have family members that are in the northern part of the state, so I wanted to include what's happening with the landfall there. All right, let's look at wind gusts. Wind gusts into the 40s already. We're going to see that ramp up, and by later this evening, we'll start to approach 45 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts across the area. Notice, overnight tonight, here we are at 2 a.m. Those gusts are now starting to get closer to that 60 mile an hour range along the coast, whereas inland, your gusts are closer to 50 miles an hour. Here we are at 5 a.m., and even places like Clearwater, Cedar Key, that area, seeing those wind gusts close to hurricane force, maybe just short of hurricane force to the south. But take a look at this. As the system makes landfall, look at these winds ramp up. Cedar Key, Cross City, into Perry. Look at Perry, winds gusting up to 120, 130 miles an hour as the storm makes its way to the north. All right, storm surge. Let's talk about it. As you can see, the areas in red, that is 9 feet plus a potential storm surge in a high-end scenario. You need to prepare for that. So we head to Hernando County. Same story to the west of US 19. West of US 19 again in Pasco County could see as much as 9 feet, probably a little less than that. Northern Pinellas County, it's mainly less than 5 to 8 feet of storm surge as we head further south and across the bay. Same story at max, I think 5 to 6 feet in Tampa Bay. As we head further south, it's closer to around the 2 to 4 foot range. Take a look at these high tides right here. There's a high tide cycle tonight. Winds will barely be pushing onshore, but they certainly will be onshore tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. So the tide's gradually building and that storm surge gradually building as we head into the afternoon tide cycle. Here's a look at your 8-day forecast. And as you can see, things will be much nicer as we head towards the weekend. Look at Saturday and Sunday. It's a 3-day holiday weekend, and it is looking much better. And I want to end with this, the Wobble tracker. The Wobble tracker shows us when the storm is on track. You can see the eye of the storm, and the red line indicating the National Hurricane Center track. We can easily see, and we've already seen today, wobbles off of it. But so far, it is behaving and staying generally on that course. When it wobbles away, it wobbles back again. If we see it veer away for an hour or two, then we know it's on a different course. We need to watch for that. You can see that on WFLA.com, by the way.
I think I noticed it earlier. It looked like the wobble was going this way and the projection was going this way, almost like a right turn. But now it's kind of adjusted and gone back where it needs
so
to
we
go.
watch it really closely. When that happens, we're looking at it, we're saying, okay, is it going to correct or is it going to go in a different direction? Sometimes it goes in a different direction. Today, this storm has corrected right along the National Hurricane Center course.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on the wobble tracker.
You can look at it on WFLA.com. It is live right now.
I don't need to do that. You're right here. Well,
yeah.
Bring it right here on television.
Personal
do it for the TV.
I'll wobble for you.
Do it for us. All right. No. If you discover damage from Hurricane Idalia, you really should be calling your insurance company as quickly as you can.
There are things you can do now, though, to help that claim go smoothly. Our consumer investigator, Shannon Bankin, is live in Tampa with what you need to know. Shannon, it is worth repeating these tips every time we have a storm.
It is, Jen Keith. I'm in downtown Tampa along the riverfront, and as you just heard Jeff talking about, people are concerned about storm surge and rising water. Hopefully by now you already have your house prepped for this storm, but now is the time to prep your financial documents and make sure you have what you need in case you need to file an insurance claim.
Before the storm hits is the time to make sure you know how to file an insurance claim quickly. Brian Oglesby of the Better Business Bureau says to start by taking pictures of the inside of your house. Make sure to include a lot of angles and, if possible, go outside and snap a picture of your roof.
These are all going to be incremental into documenting the condition of your house now and then the way your house is after the storm passes. And that's important when dealing with your insurance company, so you have that proof, you have that information, and you can make a viable claim when dealing with your insurance provider.
Gather documents for homeowners and flood insurance and store them in a dry place where you can find them later. Make sure you know what your deductible is and how to contact your agent.
You have damage to your home, it's always a good start to contact your insurance company or insurance adjuster. You can ask questions. This is where it's important to know your policy and the provisions and the coverage.
Insurance agents tell me that when it is safe to do so, you should go outside, take a look at your property, and do things you can do to mediate further damage, like removing a tree from your roof. But again, your very first call should be to your insurance agent. I'm Shannon Bankin, 8 on your side.
Thank you, Shannon. Anna Maria Island took a hard hit last year during Hurricane Ian, and they still have not fully recovered.
And while they won't face the worst of the storm this time around, residents are bracing for the flooding potential. News Channel 8's Annie Mapp is live in Manatee County. She has more on that. Annie.
Keith, Jen, I'm here on Holmes Beach, and right now it's some pretty strong waves out here, and the sun actually just came out. There's actually a lot of people out here on the beach right now just taking a walk. They say they're enjoying the weather, I guess the calm before the storm. But leaders here in Manatee County tell me their biggest concern with Idalia is flooding. Thankfully, they have not seen any major flooding of roads just yet, but some roads here on Anna Maria Island and also Longboat Key are known to cause problems. Officials say they have teams throughout the county that are helping block off roads that do become flooded. As of 3 this afternoon, more than 300 people had evacuated to general population shelters here in Manatee County. The 3 shelters open are pet friendly. Those are at Mills, Miller, and Freedom Elementary. Right now, there are mandatory evacuations for people who live in Zone A and voluntary evacuations for people who live in Zone B. But if you are in a mobile home or RV, officials are urging you to get out now. I spoke to a Manatee County resident who was out here on the beach who decided not to evacuate.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared because, the storm surge. And last time, you never know when to be scared. But you think it could be the time, so you really debate it so much.
Officials say the best step people in Zone A can take is to evacuate now. But also, if you are a Manatee County resident, they're asking you to sign up for Alert Manatee on the county website to get all storm-related information. You can also call 311 if you have any questions. Reporting live at Holmes Beach, Annie Mapp, 8 on your side.
And I'm glad Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli is here right now, because you see those people out on the beach right now, because it is the calm before the storm. We may have that little bit of a lull tomorrow morning as well, in between one high tide and then the other one that you think is more concerning. So when people go out to check it out, you and Rebecca were saying, don't do that.
I don't think so, because we're not going to see that low, right? Normally you go high tide, low tide, high tide, but the problem is the water's going to be pushing in the whole time. We're never going to see a low tide. We'll get high tonight, and then the tide's just going to either stay steady for a while, and then as soon as the winds push on shore, it's going to creep back up again pretty quick tomorrow morning. So I wouldn't do it. Not a good idea.
All right. Good tip.
Thank you, Jeff. In the meantime, keep the core off the shore. That's what we're hoping anyway, right?
Exactly. We'll be back in just a moment.
I'm an actor in an ad reminding you that if you're high, just don't drive.
There's only one thing that will save somebody's life, and that is naloxone nasal spray. Get 911 on the phone. Get the emergency responses there on their way.
If you're buzzed and doing this to make yourself feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales, el tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
News Nation has a trust rating higher than CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. You can only be the most trusted name in news with the most trusted names in news. Another reason why News Nation is news for all America.
Ooh, pretty colors.
Best Reviews is an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on just about everything. For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Live, this is News Channel 8 at 5:30 on your side.
News Channel 8 is buckling down for Hurricane Idalia. We've already seen and felt plenty of its effects, and the conditions will get more serious as the night continues. Good evening to you. I'm Josh Benson.
And I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us tonight. We continue our team coverage right now with our reporters all across the Bay Area, and our Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli is standing by. But we want to begin right now with Max Defender 8 meteorologist Rebecca Berry.
Hey guys, so we saw that track update. We didn't see much of a change. We almost expected a more western shift based on the fact that all of the spaghetti models are on the left side of the cone at this point. And so we're still expecting similar impacts for our area. We did notice in the forecast models, the wind gusts came down quite a bit. So that's good news.
Yeah.
Now the bad news is a lot of the rain remains offshore. We needed that rain desperately. And so here's the latest satellite image of Hurricane Idalia. We now have Category 2 force, 100-mile-per-hour sustained winds. It is still expected to intensify into a Category 3 storm. It's starting to get a lot more organized. We're starting to see the hint of an eye forming on the satellite imagery. It's moving to the north at 16 miles per hour. That's pretty fast for a tropical system. And so that means that any impacts that we do see will move on pretty quickly. And so it becomes a Category 3 storm just as it passes us over 100 miles offshore and then makes impact west of Cedar Key. But keep in mind, a lot of the forecast models are continuing to hint it's going to take a western edge of this track, which would lessen the impacts on our area area. The only thing that we're sad about is the lack of rainfall because it's just not looking as robust as it originally did. It's going to make its way out into the Atlantic as a tropical system, and so it'll be meandering around out there for a bit. But let's walk through when the rain starts in your neighborhood, when the wind starts to pick up tonight, because it's going to be a pretty nasty night along the coastline. And so here we are at 10 o'clock. The winds have started to pick up at this point, but they're not severe yet. Now we're starting to get the first of the heavier downpours moving into Manatee and Sarasota counties. By 2 a.m., our entire area is feeling that not only the rain, but especially the wind, mainly south of St. Pete at this point at 2 a.m. And so this is what it looks like by the time 6 a.m. rolls around. We're still seeing a lot of the winds. The rain is starting to break up in our southern counties, but what's noticeable about this is the winds are turning and becoming more southerly. And so we'll start to see a lot of storm surge in the tops of bays where the water's getting funneled in by the southerly winds. It's after that, when the winds shift and become onshore, that's when we have to worry about surge. So this is tomorrow morning between 7 and 9 a.m. It happens earlier in our southern counties, but less of an impact, and later in our northern counties with the maximum impact in Citrus and Hernando counties. Now, anytime a tropical system moves on, it leaves a trail of moisture across the area, and so we're going to get a couple of those lines throughout the day moving across the state and sometimes dropping quite a bit of rainfall within that. Joining me right now is Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli to break down some of the impacts we're going to see as the storm pushes through.
Yeah, and obviously, as you were talking about, it's not only the heavy rain, the gusty winds, but it's the storm surge as well. First, I wanted to show you what's happening with the storm right now. There is the center of the storm. This buoy right here has been reporting seas between around 16, 17 feet up to around 20, 21 feet. And we've seen these wind gusts up to about 50 miles an hour or so. Now, it's really the core. So that area right there where we'd have the hurricane force winds. So we weren't expecting to see hurricane force winds this far out, but it gives you an idea of the kind of winds we're going to experience overnight tonight as the system pulls closer to the Tampa Bay area, but does pass well to the west of us. All right, so here's a look at the radar. Storm is moving north. I've said it before, but I don't see that much lightning around the center, so it's getting better formed. You can clearly see more thunderstorms around the center, but not that many more, so it's not rapidly intensifying right now, and that is great news as the system moves to the north. It's still likely to reach Cat 3 status when it makes landfall near Appalachia Bay. I want to show you what's happening right now on Max Defender 8 radar. And later tonight, we're expecting to see probably multiple quick-moving tornadoes move by. Our radar updates instantaneously. It is a live radar, so we can track this neighborhood by neighborhood, and we will be here to do that for you tonight. Heavy downpours and a lot of lightning moving into Denellen. The heavy rain has moved out of the Crystal River area as we head further towards the south. A line of rain around New Tampa, Wesley Chapel, and some gusty winds up to around 30 miles an hour. Some of these outer band rains have produced gusts up to 47 miles an hour in Sebring earlier. There's a big break right here. We're going to wait a couple more hours for that next band to kind of swing on shore. So that's the way it goes with these outer bands. We see an outer band pass by, then it's usually quiet for a couple hours or so, and then the outer bands become more frequent, and that will happen overnight tonight with some fast-moving tornadoes possible. The worst weather is late tonight through early tomorrow afternoon. We're going to see reverse storm surge tonight. But the biggest storm surge threat looks to be tomorrow, especially at high tide. Meteorologist Rebecca Berry will be back in just a bit with more details.
Thank you, Jeff and Rebecca. As our whole team has been talking about, the Nature Coast is one of the areas expected to see the greatest impacts.
Yeah, and we have a team standing by in Citrus County. Jack Royer is there. Jack, you just spoke with the Citrus County Sheriff. What were some of the warnings there?
Man, he is concerned, Josh and Jen, that people are not taking these warnings very seriously at all. And I can tell you, we've seen folks out here today who are saying we're going to ride it out in our homes. And anyone who has been through a major hurricane or has covered one knows how dangerous those words are. I am standing right now in evacuation zone A. Behind me is Kings Bay, the Gulf of Mexico on behind us. This water is already high at high tide. It's receded a bit, but this storm surge is going to be serious, as our meteorologists have been warning people. 9 feet, potentially more in some spots. They're warning anywhere west of US 19, which is just close to us tonight, is going to see some of those major impacts. But the sheriff told me earlier today there's simply nothing he can do for people who stay in their homes during the storm. He doesn't want to put his deputies at risk, and he simply just doesn't have the resources to help folks who don't want to help themselves by heeding these evacuation warnings. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Unfortunately, there are folks who are not going to listen, and we're going to get 911 calls when the storm starts to peak later on tonight. And the winds are too high for us to safely operate our vehicles, and the water gets to be too deep for us to be able to safely and physically get out there, because our vehicles, we don't have high water vehicles all over the county that we can go out and do high water rescues. But, you know, by policy, we say get off the road by 45 miles an hour.
The sheriff making the point that they drive cars like most consumers would drive, Impalas, some Chevy Tahoes, but Ford Explorers, cars like that simply can't drive through flooding. So people who are going to call for help at some point are going to be told we can't do anything until this storm passes. There are shelters available here, but now folks just need to heed these warnings. That is the message from the sheriff tonight. As for us, we just experienced one of those outer bands of rain, quite a heavy downpour a few minutes ago. Now it's cleared up a bit, but we're all watching the storm and expecting quite an impact here in Citrus County. Live tonight, I'm Jack Royer, 8 on your side.
Several feet of storm surge also expected in coastal areas of Pasco County.
People who live in Zone A are under a mandatory evacuation there, as they are in many places. News Channel 8's Stacey DeSilva is live for us in Pasco County with what's going on there right now. Stacey.
Jen and Josh, we are experiencing a little bit of light rain here, one of those outer bands that, again, Jeff Baradelli said comes and goes so quickly. We have light rain, we have heavy rain, but it doesn't last very long. We are here along the Cody River in Newport Richey, an area the mayor is concerned about when it comes to the real issue of the day, the storm surge. All areas west of US 19 in Newport Richey are under a mandatory evacuation, including in the video we are showing you at the Gulf Harbor's waterfront community. Joey Godfrey removed his boat from the dock and was doing the final preparations on his home this afternoon. His wife left yesterday, but Godfrey is remaining at home, confident that with the storm moving farther west, water may stay out of his house.
It's going to be over the seawall. It's just a matter of how far up in the yard and will it get into people's houses. Hopefully, you know, if it's only 4 or 5 feet of surge, it probably won't make it into the houses here, but it will probably in Green Key, certainly.
Again, this area is anticipating several feet of storm surge. I did speak with the mayor about an hour ago live on News Channel 8. He's urging residents in Zone A to evacuate. He says emergency responders will not be able to get to you, of course, when it's dark out and that storm surge really starts to kick in. Reporting live in Newport Richey, I'm Stacey DeSilva, 8 on your side.
Thank you, Stacey. Multiple Bay Area communities are under evacuation orders tonight, including Pinellas County. The National Hurricane Center is forecasting 4 to 7 feet of storm surge there, which has the potential to flood coastal and low-lying areas and mandatory evacuation areas for Zone A.
Yeah, that's a lot of water. And 8 on your side's Brittany Muller's live in Gulfport with the very latest out there. Brittany.
Josh, Jen, good evening to you both. Storm surge in the city of Gulfport is definitely a concern. And joining me right now live is Justin Shea with the city of Gulfport. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to me about that storm surge and the risk it poses to residents here.
Absolutely. City officials are monitoring that storm surge, but we're also looking at that high tide event at 2 a.m. But most important, after that high tide event with the storm on the northwest side pushing that water up into the bay, that 12:20 tide tomorrow afternoon is an above average, almost 3-foot tide. So when you wake up tomorrow and you see that, you know, the winds might have subsided, but that tide is going to come back. So it's very important that downtown Gulfport stay out of the floodwaters, turn around, don't drown. That's for your own safety.
And right now on your screen, we're also looking at video of downtown Gulfport, where you can see many of those businesses with sandbags taking those extra precautions. Talk to me about the city's message right now to business owners, residents, everyone here.
Stay safe. Last night at 7 p.m. Started the level A evacuation orders. All of downtown Gulfport, including the historic Gulfport Casino, as well as O'Matty's Bar and Grill, is in that level A zone. So we are asking you to go to safer ground. And the community distributed over 12,000 sandbags to residents opening that operation on Sunday up until today, until 3:30 p.m. So we're asking residents and business owners, thank you for preparing, but also as we see these tides come up in the storm surge, that 2 a.m. is very important, but also tomorrow afternoon at 12:20, a higher than normal tide at 3 foot. Stay out of those floodwaters, turn around, and don't drown.
Justin Shea with the city of Gulfport, thank you so much. much for this critical information right now. Thank you again. We do know that the city of Gulfport is also anticipating power outages. They have also opened up 10 shelters in Pinellas County. You can find all of that information on our WFLA app. For now, reporting live in the city of Gulfport, Brittany Muller, 8 on your side.
That's a sensitive area. Good information there. Thank you, Brittany. Well, plenty of people have questions about the storm's impact, the closures, and the evacuations.
Over on WFLA now, JB Buno and Max Defender 8 meteorologist Eric Stone are taking your questions.
Yeah, and they'll be joining us on the air in just a few minutes to bring you those answers. Stay close.
I'm an actor in an ad reminding you that if you're high, just don't drive.
Best Reviews is an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on just about everything. For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales. El tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
Veterans, whatever you're going through, don't wait. Reach out.
Today.
As Hurricane Idalia creeps up the Gulf of Mexico and makes its way towards the coast of Florida, you may have a lot of different questions about how to get ready.
That's right. Our WFLA Now team is streaming online right now to answer some of those questions for you. Let's go to WFLA Now's JB Buno from our Stream Center. JB.
Yeah, hey there, Josh. Hey there, Jen. Hope you're doing well in the broadcast studio. We're here on live stream in the WFLA Now Stream Center answering a lot of questions that are location specific. And if you want to ask your question about your particular neighborhood, join us on the live stream. Eric and I are answering a lot of different questions, including, this one from Mr. Tweet. Eric, it says, #HeyJB, how much more west will Idalia go after, of course, these westward nudges away from the Tampa Bay area?
I don't think it'll go further west, making landfall around the St. Marks area. I think it'll be between St. Marks and Cedar Key, but pretty close to St. Marks. So well to the east of Panama City and Apalachicola.
Let's go to this question from Martin. And this one, talking specifically about tomorrow, really. At what time is landfall predicted?
Yeah, landfall has been sooner and sooner because it's moving quickly, right? Idalia is moving at 16 miles per hour, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw landfall in that area of St. Marks around 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Some people have found some models as well that do some interesting things. I want to really quickly get this one up on screen. Do you think the hurricane will go out to the Atlantic and return to Florida like some outliers have suggested?
Yeah, it looks like the aviation model has it making a loop and possibly hitting central or eastern Florida. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's part of what we do. We help, correct what's going on out there on social media. We hope you'll join us on social media to ask your questions on Tracking the Tropics. We'll send it back over to you.
Checking the latest with Hurricane Idalia, we do see the storm becoming a little bit more organized. It's going to, we're expecting it to continue to intensify, reaching Category 3 status by early tomorrow morning before making a landfall in the Big Bend area. It is moving to the north at 16 miles per hour, so sometimes it's hard for systems to develop when it's moving at such a fast speed, but it is moving into some of the warmest sea surface temperatures we see in the Gulf, especially as it gets closer to landfall. It's well into the low 90s across the Gulf right there. And so after it makes landfall as a Category 3, it crosses the state line as a Category 1 still, but starts to fall back into tropical storm force status across southeastern Georgia before entering the Gulf and making its way back out into the Gulf. And so that's the latest track. We don't get a new track until 11 o'clock. We did expect a slightly more western shift with the track, just based on what we're seeing with the spaghetti models, but the impacts the further west it shifts would be less and less for us. Now, we are worried about isolated tornadoes, and the tornado threat's a little higher in our northern counties than it is in our southern counties, but we'll keep an eye on it. And if there is a tornado warning, we'll break in immediately. We have the Max Defender 8 radar providing us with those instant updates, as Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli mentioned earlier, and that gives us an accurate picture of exactly where that fast-moving system is. Our current wind speeds are not impressive right now. They're a little elevated in St. Pete and Sarasota, and within thunderstorms, they've gotten a lot higher. We've seen some 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts within thunderstorms as those outermost rain bands move through. But just within the past half hour, we've seen some wind gusts between 20 and 29 miles per hour, and we expect those to pick up a bit. But the good news is I don't think we're going to see a lot of severe wind. And so this is a radius of where the winds will be out from the center of the storm. The red is hurricane force winds. You can see how compact those hurricane force winds are and how far offshore they are. Now, the orange is severe winds, so that's above 60-mile-per-hour winds, and that's pretty compact as well. Now, tropical storm force winds, that's anything above 39 miles per hour. We're already starting to see some of that along our coastline, and that will continue during the overnight hours. Nearly all of our area gets those tropical storm force winds. Eastern Polk and Highlands might be out of it for a bit, but this is at 2:30 a.m. as the system starting to pass us, and once the eye passes you, the winds change and become onshore, and that's when we're worried about storm surge. So it's early tomorrow morning through the day that we'll start to see the storm surge tomorrow. And so first the rain and the wind, and then the storm surge as the storm passes us, and we finally start to see those hurricane force winds eliminated from the system as it exits the Carolina coast. The rainfall, unfortunately, is going to be a lot heavier just offshore than onshore, but the heaviest rainfall totals between 3 and 6 inches will be right along our coastline where we need the rain the most, so that's the good news. But the rainfall won't be that impressive over inland areas, especially Polk and Highlands County, which have had some really stormy afternoons this summer. You've probably gotten more rain in some of those storms than you're going to get with this system. But our coastline has been starved from rain, and we need these showers, and we wish it didn't come with the wind and the surge, but we're hoping we at least get that beneficial rain along the coastline where we need it the most. And so let's walk you through your extended forecast. Widespread rain chances tonight and into tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon into the evening hours, it does start to trail off. Now, as we move into Thursday, we've still got really good chances for rain. A couple of trails of tropical moisture are left across the southeast, and so we'll see scattered chances for showers on Thursday and Friday, and the winds finally change a bit and become offshore on Friday. So onshore winds continuing Wednesday and Thursday, so that will continue to exacerbate our high tide flooding. But the winds change on Friday. They're out of the east-southeast and they're lighter, and so we'll see a rush of water exiting our bays and rivers as that wind changes and we return to more normal levels of high tide. Over the weekend, it's a long one, so a lot of people have big plans. Not much rain in the forecast this weekend. Actually, really nice wind directions as well out of the northeast. That means nice, comfortable nights where we wake up in the mid-70s instead of the low 80s. But it does mean that we're well into the 90s during the afternoon hours, and we stay dry as we move into next week's forecast as well. We'll have the latest analysis on Hurricane Idalia coming up next.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. Parts of the Bay Area are under mandatory evacuation orders tonight.
That's right. Masa Saidi joins us now live with more from Hillsborough County. Masa.
Hi there, Josh and Jen. So we are at Rocky Point, right outside of a restaurant called Whiskey Joe's. Of course, the restaurant is closed today for the hurricane. To give you an idea where I am standing, the eye of the storm, the center of the storm is going to be 125 miles away. This is Tampa Bay, the north part of Tampa Bay. Jim is going to show you just how calm the water is right now, how it's softly crashing into the coast, and that is the Courtney Campbell Causeway. It is monitored by TPD and Clearwater PD. I'm told that is the very first bridge to close if things end up getting hairy. I'm told that the water approaches that bridge first, so they are monitoring it, but no sign of trouble at all. And we're out here, we're meeting people, we're talking with people. I want to introduce you to two people who actually work at this restaurant. They decided to come back. Colleen and Garrett, tell me what you were up to today, Miss Colleen.
We just woke up this morning. We went down to Clearwater Beach for a little bit, did some surfing, got some ice cream, head back to Whiskey Joe's, and now we're headed to Tampa for our hurricane.
And it looks like, such a calm, beautiful day. What are your feelings on the storm?
Yeah, born and raised here. I've seen some crazy storms, but it looks like Tampa's going to get pretty lucky with this one. I'm praying for my fellow Seminoles up there in Tallahassee. Go Noles. LSU's not ready next weekend, but yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, guys. And that is really what we're hearing from so many people. People seem to be very relaxed about the storm right now. We are going to get out, talk to more people, and give you more updates as the evening continues. They are expecting a storm surge of up to 5 feet in this area, and we'll make sure we keep you up to date on the very latest. Reporting live in Hillsborough County, I'm investigator Masasa 88 on your side.
The Bay Area's southern counties have been taking precautions all day to make sure no one is hurt when the storm hits.
That's right. Allison Hennings live in Sarasota County with a look at how people there are preparing. Allison.
Well, guys, as you can see behind me, there's a home boarded up behind me. We've also noticed plenty of sandbags out throughout the downtown Sarasota area because of that storm surge threat. Along Sarasota's Bayfront at Bayfront Park and Marina Jack today, water levels were pretty high, actually. It didn't look like too many people had removed their boats from that area, but we did see some still working to secure their vessels into this afternoon. Dan O'Leary is helping tie down some of his friends' boats because they're out of town. He lives on the water, and last year, before Hurricane Ian, he left Fort Myers for the East Coast just in time. He says this time around in Sarasota, he is hunkering down because he says he didn't have enough time to get away and wasn't sure exactly where this storm was going to go.
But you do learn a lot from every hurricane and every incident. You learn a lot, and you learn from that, and you do things differently. But you just over-prepare. You practice a lot.
And O'Leary says he does have extra lines and extra equipment on his boat in case he does need it. But if he does not need them this time around, he says everything that he did throughout the day today and the last couple of days was a good drill ahead of the next storm. Guys.
Right. Thanks so much for that. I think one of the bummers of this storm, though, is it's mostly overnight. You can't really see what's going on. You got to take more precautions. People are trying to sleep. A lot of issues.
It's terrible when storms hit overnight because especially tornadoes are more deadly at night because people aren't woken up by their tornadoes. We don't have tornado sirens, and they might not have their phone set up or their weather radio set up. But the other dangerous part to this is when we wake up tomorrow morning, the worst of the surge hasn't started yet. And so I'm afraid people will go out and about and start looking.
That's right. That false sense of security.
Yeah, and get caught in the surge because it does rush in fast. It's not tsunami fast, but once you see it, you need to be on the move.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rebecca. We've got more as we leave you with our Wobble tracker here, which you can see live anytime on WFLA.com. We're coming up with News Channel 8 at 6.
Ooh, pretty colors.
Best Reviews is an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on just about everything. For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
If you're buzzed and doing this to make yourself feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive.
Ya está aquí, el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales, el tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.
News Nation has a trust rating higher than CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. You can only be the most trusted name in news with the most trusted names in news. Another reason why News Nation is news for all America.
I'm an actor in an ad that was given 12 seconds to remind you that if you're high, just don't drive. Because if you feel different, you drive different. It's illegal to drive high everywhere anyway.
Gary.
The calm before the storm comes to an end. Idalia is on the move, growing into a monster, threatening an unprecedented hit on Florida's Big Bend and a potential storm surge throughout the Bay Area.
We're moving out because I've seen storm surge before in Naples. It comes in quick, and I'm not watching it a second time.
It's your final chance to put down sandbags, board up, and get out. Tonight, 8 on Your Side has the information to help you stay safe and stay positive.
Keep your faith and know that tomorrow's a new day.
Good evening, I'm Stacy Scheibel.
And I'm Keith Kate. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hurricane Idalia, now a Category 2 storm and still predicted to increase to a Cat 3. In the 5 p.m. update, the hurricane's projected path shifted west just slightly. The center of the cone now focuses on Steinhatchee, Cedar Key, I should say, still on the edge of this cone. Perry now included. Evacuation orders remain in effect for all of the coastal Bay Area, from Sarasota all the way up to the Big Bend and beyond, on the way to Tallahassee. Now, if you're in a coastal low-lying area, the time to get out is now.
And tonight we have 8 on Your Side team coverage on Hurricane Idalia as the storm approaches our Florida Gulf Coast. Our reporters are covering the area all the way up from Cedar Key down to Sarasota. But we're going to begin with our chief meteorologist, Jeff Baradelli. And, you know, Keith, you and I were talking a little bit earlier. We kept seeing it shifting to the left, the spaghetti models.
That's right.
When I say left, to the west.
Yeah.
And that's indeed what's happened.
That is. The National Hurricane Center tries to be as consistent as they can. They want to make sure they're making good decisions. Last thing they need to do is move it here, and then it moves back again because it throws people off guard. So first of all, let's talk about the impacts. And the most important thing you need to know is if you are on the Nature Coast, or really even Pinellas County along the coast, you're going to see storm surge flooding very late tonight and during the day tomorrow. If you've been told to evacuate, you still have time. Look, it's fairly calm across the area right now, so this is the time to take any last-minute precautions, because at around 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, this band is going to begin to really overtake the area, and as it moves on shore, we're going to see frequent downpours with isolated tornadoes, quick-moving tornadoes, and also those gusts up to 60 miles an hour or so. All right, so looking at the radar, the first band, the very first outer band, has moved through Orlando. It has moved past Crystal River. Now just some lighter rain in its wake, and that band, so far away from the center, has been producing wind gusts of 45 miles an hour. So you know the next band that comes in will produce those wind gusts up to at least 55, maybe even 60 miles an hour. All right, here's a look at the satellite photo. It's not rapidly intensifying. It is intensifying. We still think it's going to get to a Cat 3, and it's going to be another storm in a line of storms that we've seen over the past several years that have been insistent upon rapidly intensifying as they get close to the Gulf Coast. It's Cat 2 right now, winds 100 miles an hour, predicted to become a Cat 3 overnight tonight when it's to the west of Tampa, making landfall early tomorrow morning right there at the apex of Appalachia Bay. All right, we're going to toss it to a press conference. The governor is speaking right now.
Currently a Category 2 hurricane. It's almost certainly going to make landfall in the state of Florida as a major hurricane. The latest update by the National Hurricane Center made, and we had mentioned this in terms of what the models were showing, they put it at a westward shift. So the impact is going to be further north, and it is going to bring more direct impacts into counties like Leon, Jefferson, and Wakulla County if it continues on that. Now, these things can move over the next 24 hours, but it seems like most of these models are in agreement about the general area. So it's definitely going to hit the Big Bend. Everywhere in the Big Bend is going to get storm surge, is going to see major impact, whether the eye wall's hitting you or not. So please prepare for that. It is going to be a significant impact to that region of Florida. Now, if you are in an evacuation zone and you've been directed to evacuate, particularly if you're in a low-lying area or coastal area in that Big Bend region, now's the time to do it. You still have a little bit more time. If you wait much longer, by the time we get in further into tonight, the weather's going to start getting nastier and nastier, and we're looking at an impact of the eye wall arriving sometime tomorrow morning. So you really got to go now. Now's the time. If you don't, if you stay hunkered down tonight, it's going to be too nasty tomorrow morning to be able to do it. Now, if you do choose to stay, in one of the evacuation zones, first responders will not be able to get you until after the storm has passed. That's right. They're not going to be able to get there till after the storm has passed. So please make decisions that are best for you and for your family. And remember, you don't need to travel hundreds of miles away. You don't need to outrun the storm. Simply getting to higher ground in a shelter, with friend's house, hotels.
There you're listening to Governor Ron DeSantis reminding us again, run from the water, hide from the wind. Always some good advice. We're going to continue to monitor the governor for you and bring you updates as needed. Meantime, we're going to talk a little bit more to Jeff Baradelli, right?
Yeah, you know, you're pointing out how the colors on the map have changed really in the last 12 hours. We were looking at a much worse situation right here in the Tampa Bay area. We're still going to have problems north of us.
That's right. Still some big storm surge. That hasn't changed, but the wind impact has. In fact, if we can take Weather 5, take a look at this graphic. It really has changed since last night. Last night, we had purple along the coast of even Pinellas County, and we had red all the way down to about Tampa. Those are hurricane-force winds. That is gone now. Only Crystal River is in that swath of hurricane-force sustained winds. But north of that, look at that, 110 miles an hour plus Cross City, Cedar Key, Lake City, Perry, even Tallahassee on the edge of winds over 100 miles an hour or so. And we will be keeping you updated on what's happening up there. A lot of us have family and friends that live in the northern part of the state.
Sure, yeah.
And again, just to reiterate, along the coast of the Nature Coast especially, life-threatening storm surge is still likely as this storm squeezes into the corner there.
Yeah, we were talking about Steinhatchee Bay maybe being the point of impact, but when, I mean, this moves over into Perry, it moves perhaps even into Tallahassee.
And all that water funnels in to a very shallow area. So, again, water is going to be in people's homes. Take it seriously.
And Tallahassee right there, too.
Right there. We're all watching for sure. Thank you, Jeff. Cedar Key may see some of the worst of Idalia. It is a community that has been through many hurricanes before, at least the impacts there, but people are taking this storm super seriously. In fact, many businesses have flooded in previous storms.
So today, homeowners and business owners spent their day preparing for the storm. Our Jeff Patterson, he's a veteran when it comes to these hurricanes. I almost wanted to ask you, Jeff, how many you think you've covered over the years. I know you're live in Cedar Key, where you're going to get a walloping tonight.
Well, I've been to two very, very bad storms here in Cedar Key. There was Hurricane Hermine in 2016, Hurricane Ilsa in 2021. But Stacey, to be honest, I can't count for you how many hurricanes I've covered in the last 35 years. It's a lot. Normally here in Cedar Key, this would be a great place to have a dinner. Even on a Tuesday night, there's a lot of little nice little stores and shops that are open here. But today they have boarded up. They have put sandbags down. The only people you might see behind me are some news crews, some storm chasers who are here as they await for Idalia to arrive.
All over Cedar Key, residents were loading up electronics and valuables to take off of the island, and they were boarding up and placing sandbags where they could to prepare. Christy Roman has a home and a business on Cedar Key. She won't be staying here tonight because, like many, she has one major concern about this storm.
Flooding, big time. Worried. I run a golf cart company, and that's the biggest concern, I think, for the whole island is the flooding.
Cedar Key has experienced a number of major hurricanes. Hurricane Hermine in 2016, Hurricane Elsa in 2021. Michael Bobbitt has lived on the island for 3 years and has been coming here for 20 years. He knows what storm surge can do to this area.
Hurricane Hermine, when we just had 5 or 6 foot of storm surge, flooded this whole downtown area. So if we're expected to get 8 to 11, we're worried about the catastrophic impacts to the island here.
So like many, he is more concerned about this storm than any other.
I normally got this pretty blasé about storms. I'm excited by them. I make funny weather videos about them all the time, but there is nothing funny about this storm. It's a catastrophic, life-threatening event, and we're hoping that everybody that can will just get off the island.
Yeah, I can remember being here for Hurricane Ilsa, and there were boats that had been in the marina that had been tied down, that were lifted up and pushed inland fairly far all across the parking lot here at the marina. Today, we've noticed all of these small boats that were normally here, the charter fishing boats, have been taken out of the area, put onto trailers, and taken to a much safer location. People are really taking this storm seriously because they are worried about the storm surge. Live in Cedar Key, Jeff Patterson, 8 on your side.
And not far from where Jeff is, plenty of people along Florida's nature coast are concerned about Idalia and how the hurricane could affect them.
Yeah, many are obviously taking the storm seriously, just as they are in Cedar Key, and they spent today making their final preparations. News Channel 8's Justin Shecker is joining us tonight. He is in Hernando Beach. So what are conditions like there? We saw choppy water behind Jeff. I'm assuming you're seeing the same.
Keith and Stacy, good evening to you both. We're starting to feel those first raindrops from Idalia, and the wind is starting to pick up here in Hernando Beach. Now, all these homes behind me are vulnerable to flooding once the water starts to rise. That's why the homeowner I met this afternoon told me he isn't taking any chances during Hurricane Idalia. The clock is ticking for residents in Hernando County to evacuate before Hurricane Idalia. County officials are warning of a potential life-threatening 6 to 9 foot storm surge.
Life is irreplaceable, okay? You can replace things. And we have a fantastic first responders here in Hernando County and all along our coastline. Those first responders have families too.
In the flood-prone Hernando Beach community, several businesses have already closed. Many of the boats have already been pulled out of the water.
All my vehicles are already moved over to a parking lot across 19. The only thing I got in a garage is a motorcycle up on a lift.
Kurt Whitmer is evacuating with his wife and son to a hotel in Newport Richey for at least the next 2 nights.
In 16, it actually came up on the back porch, and that's probably about an 8-foot surge. So with it possibly being 9 or 10 foot, it's just not worth taking a chance. And I mean, you know what? You can replace property.
Before he leaves, he's stacking sandbags around his home in hopes of keeping the water out.
I'm 2 foot up out in the front, and in the back, I'm probably going to go about 4 foot because that's where the water's going to come from.
And tonight, Hernando County's mandatory evacuation orders are in place for residents who live west of US 19. The county has opened up 4 shelters at local schools. You can find a list of them right now on WFLA.com. Reporting live in Hernando Beach, I'm Justin Shecker, 8 on your side.
All right, thank you, Justin. As we continue to work our way along the coastline there, we go now to Pinellas County, where officials continue to monitor the water levels and the concerns over flooding.
Lots of people finding where they live on the map to make sure they know what's coming their way. Lenny Supal is on Clearwater Beach. Still looks pretty good behind you. The weather's a little choppy.
Waters are choppy, the wind picking up, and we are starting to see a few raindrops as well. And along the shoreline, there's a few dozen people dotted along the coast, and they are trying to catch a view as well as a few waves before the weather really settles in. And what we'll see is that Gulf really become more agitated, and that's what we're comparing from yesterday. It will look very different over the next 24 hours.
Growing up in Florida, we'd always go to the beach and jump the waves. So it's kind of like a tradition.
And so from where I'm standing is where the storm surge is expected to be more than 7 feet, 4 to 7 feet range. That could be well over my head, just to put that into perspective. And we'll continue to stay out here across North Pinellas County and keep you updated every step of the way. Reporting live from Clearwater Beach tonight, Lenny Supal, 8 on your side.
Thank you, Lenny. And Idalia has already moved past the western tip of Cuba. Of course, we don't see a lot from the island. However, the Associated Press did release this video. You're looking at Havana, and you can see some of what happened there. The area had strong winds, flooded streets, but not everybody's upset about it. So people like that fisherman right there. They say the weather actually brought fish to the northern coast and say the water is now full of sardines.
And the Florida Keys, they've been feeling the effects of Idalia all day. This is a live look at the southernmost point on Key West. It's a little, they need to clean the camera lens there. We've seen the waves crashing ashore throughout the day, and a few people out there, none right now, but snapping photos, proof of what happened with Idalia.
Our Max Defender 8 team coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues in just a moment.
And if at any point you lose power, TV, cell, or internet service, you can still get News Channel 8 updates on iHeart radio stations throughout the Bay Area. We've put a list of those stations right here on the screen.
But first, a live look from Cedar Key tonight. It's still lovely there this evening, but things could change in a hurry. This is the area where the hurricane could potentially make landfall, or at least very close to it. We'll be right back.
Well, we know you have a lot of questions about Hurricane Idalia and how it will affect your neighborhood, how you've been preparing, and really what the impacts are going to be, whatever your neighborhood is.
A lot of questions out there, and that is why we are streaming live on WFLA Now throughout this storm. As we zoom in there, you can see JB Buno on the Stream Center tonight to tell us how things are going there. JB.
Yeah, good evening to you, Keith. We're, of course, answering tons of questions with Max Defender 8 meteorologist Eric Stone here with us in the Stream Center, and we're also monitoring the real-time Wobble tracker on WFLA.com. But we have some really intelligent viewers out there that know that even though this has been a westward nudge with this track, Eric, people know that spin-up tornadoes are absolutely possible, even in some of our inland counties. So Trios Clan wants to know, how is the tornado threat looking as of now?
Well, you know, from about 11:30 this morning through 2:30 this afternoon in southwest Florida, in the town of Naples, Collier County, they've had several tornado warnings. Not sure if they actually had a tornado on the ground, but that's what happens when these storms come on shore, when these rain bands come on shore. They encounter the friction and these spin-ups will occur, and that's going to be something that we need to deal with from now all the way through tomorrow morning. Luckily, right this second, we've got a break in the action for at least a couple hours, but overnight tonight, we'll be looking for those spin-up tornadoes.
Let's go to this one from Planchette. Hit the touchscreen here on Tracking the Tropics and take you to this hashtag HeyJB and Eric question. Are we going to see an increase in our storm surges, especially thanks to the super blue moon sinking with this Hurricane Idalia?
Yes, definitely. You know, the tide's running about 3 foot high right now, and you combine that with a storm surge, and you have something called a storm tide, which is basically the combination. So, yes, this will add to the storm surge from Idalia.
It's really important to note that one of the primary things that we do is you try to tell you what the storm is going to do in your neighborhood. So we've been getting a lot of questions like this one from LT in our comment section. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag Hey Eric. How will this storm impact the Hudson Spring Hill area? My goodness, Eric, we've gotten so many questions specifically about Spring Hill.
Right, Spring Hill, definitely a little bit further inland. Hudson, not so much. But again, the storm surge you have to worry about if you live, especially west of 19. Spring Hill, of course, east of 19. Tropical storm force wind and gust overnight to tomorrow morning with some of the rain bands and a couple of inches of rain there.
Yeah, you want to join us? We're live right now on the WFLA Facebook page, WFLA YouTube page, and WFLA.com. We'll be answering questions in the hours ahead. We'll, of course, have the advisories at 8 and 11 o'clock with Max Defender 8 meteorologist Eric Stone, myself, interactively covering Hurricane Idalia. But for now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, guys. So this storm has you think about a lot of things. I mean, whether it's flooding, wind, tornadoes possible, but you're thinking about, what about that homeowner's insurance? It may be on your mind right now.
Well, and we're in the middle of a homeowner's insurance crisis, which makes us even all a little more nervous. Some homeowners who suffered damage in last year's hurricane are just now getting back on their feet. Our consumer investigator, Shannon Benkin, joins us with one woman's story. Shannon.
Stacey, Keith, I've been talking to people about those concerns. Right now, though, we are live in downtown Tampa along the riverfront. I want you to take a look at what we're seeing here. It's been very calm. Earlier today when we were doing live shots, it was actually raining. It's quite nice right now. You can see a few people out enjoying the weather. But I do want to get back to that homeowner's insurance. A lot of people are thinking about that. Now is the time to start thinking about that insurance to make sure you have what you need. And the woman you are about to hear, she tells me a story that she was stunned to find out how difficult it was to take advantage of her homeowner's insurance when she needed it last year.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it doesn't make a right turn.
Amy Long is braced for the arrival of Hurricane Idalia, hopeful that it treats her Valrico home better than Hurricane Ian did nearly a year ago. When I met Amy last year, this tree had smashed into her home and through her pool cage. She tells me her insurance company at first denied coverage for the pool area.
So the tree fell in the pool, and that was where the majority of the damage was. They didn't want to cover any of the damage to the pool or to the concrete around it.
Were you surprised at how difficult that insurance process was?
Yes, because we were literally ghosted for months without a call back or anything. And I would call every day. No one would return the calls. And then finally when they did, we were just told that it wasn't covered.
Amy tells me her insurance company argued the screened area wasn't covered. But after she filed a complaint with Florida's Department of Insurance, the company had a change of heart. She tells me the pool area was just fixed 2 months ago. What did you learn that could help other people?
Don't give up and just keep fighting. That's what I had to do. I didn't take no for an answer. And you just get ready to fight because they clearly didn't want to pay.
Amy's story is a reminder to not only fight for your rights, but also right now is the time to make sure that you have all of the documentation you need for your homeowner's insurance, have the phone numbers you need to make the phone call tomorrow if you need to. I'm Shannon Bankin, live in Tampa, 8 on your side.
Max Defender 8, the most advanced weather radar in Florida.
All right, everybody, we continue to monitor Idalia. As you can see, the system is gaining latitude. It's moving north. In the eastern Gulf, water temperature is 88 to 90 degrees. It's not rapidly intensifying right now, but it's certainly getting better organized and feeding off of that warm water. And it will gradually become probably a Cat 3 before landfall right about there, the apex of Appalachia Bay. So it's right around St. Mark's, maybe as far east as around Cedar Key or so. We're getting some of these outer bands. And what's interesting about these outer bands is we've already had wind gusts to around 45 miles an hour or so. So you know the next outer band is going to crank up those wind gusts probably to 55, 60 miles an hour. And that's generally what we're going to see overnight tonight as the bands become more frequent. And by the way, I want to remind you, you can send us weather pictures. Send them right here to weather@WFLA.com. Not just pictures, but you can also send video. And Bonnie sent me a picture from the Bradenton, Sarasota area. Bonnie's right on the water. And, you know, the water is being blown out right now. So we do not have onshore flow. We have offshore flow. But just because of that supermoon, tides are already elevated. So the fact that we have a storm offshore, and even though we don't have a flow onshore, we're seeing that storm surge flooding already. It's minor so far, but it's going to become more major as those big waves begin to propagate closer to shore. Now notice, at 1 a.m., we're starting to finally see some onshore wind. So it's after midnight that we lose the reverse surge. We don't really have much of it, but that we start to see some real surge kick in. There's the onshore flow after around midnight, 1 o'clock, and that's when the water starts to pile up along our coast and our tides begin to go up. We're expecting 7 to 10 feet of storm surge along the coast west of US 19 in Citrus County, about 5 to 8 feet along the coast, Hernando County into northern Pasco County, 4 to 6 feet in and around Pinellas and Hillsborough County, so those low-lying areas, Shore Acres, Coffee Pot Bayou, Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa, you're going to have to worry about the possibility of flooding. There's likely going to be a couple to a few feet of water on some of those roadways. All right, peak wind gusts. So you can see those wind gusts cranking up as we head to the 11 o'clock hour. Those winds are around 45, 50 miles an hour, but after midnight, we're cranking them up over 60 mile an hour wind gusts, a little bit less in inland areas where your wind gusts will be closer to around 40 to 45 in Lakeland. Notice tomorrow morning the storm begins to make landfall sometime around 7, 8, 9 o'clock, and those winds are really strong. Places like Perry, Lake City, even Tallahassee, you're likely to see some hurricane-force wind gusts as the system exits to the north. Let me show you hour by hour. So the worst of the weather comes in tonight, late this evening, overnight tonight and early in the morning. Strong outer bands making their way through, but the actual storm itself well offshore, well over 100 miles to the west of Tampa. We continue to see these frequent squalls move through, those wind gusts to 60, 70 miles an hour at times along the immediate coast. And even tomorrow morning, we're in and out of those squalls. Now, tomorrow, we'll see those squalls begin to taper off. So it's in and out of breezy showers tomorrow afternoon. So we're going to really start to see some improvement starting around lunchtime tomorrow and then especially after that. But because we often have tails of moisture that are on top of us after the system passes, we're going to continue to see those breezy showers even on Thursday from time to time, although not nearly as strong winds and not nearly as heavy a rain. We're not going to get as much rain as we wanted. Along the immediate coast, we may see 3 to 6, but most folks are going to pick up generally about 2 to 3 inches of rain on average. Worst of the rains tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we still have some heavy downpours. We'll pick up some additional rain. That's good news. But then as we head into the 3-day holiday weekend, we're looking pretty good as the rain chance winds down. The sun comes back out. Here's a look at your 8-day forecast now. So once we get rid of this storm, once it passes through, we'll see improving conditions, but very gradually. Again, gusty showers Thursday, breezy showers on Friday, much better weather as we head into the weekend. And we're going to bring the Wobble tracker back on the map. And Keith, you were noticing something about that.
Well, I was because, you know, as you point out, the blue is where we've been. The red is where we're going in terms of the timeline. But look at the eye just to the right of the red line. What does that mean, Jeff?
It has wobbled. Why is it wobbled? Take a look at the thunderstorms on the eastern side of the storm. That is pulling the system, wobbling it to the east. Now, we expect that those storms will be wrapped around. But if for a while those storms remain offset on the eastern side, that could actually pull the system a little bit further to the east. So for now, the wobble is to the east. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but if it continues for a couple hours, then we get concerned. Again, you can look at this anytime. It's streaming right now live, and it will be all night through tomorrow on WFLA.com.
Yeah, you can hardly look away. But as you point out, once it wobbles back, then it's right in
and it's right in line again. We expect that to happen, but we'll see.
You see these little jogs.
Yep, we do.
Every
All
once in a
right,
while.
thank you, Jeff.
Well, our Max Defender 8 team coverage of Hurricane Idalia continues in just a moment. We'll be right back.
Ya está aquí el nuevo sitio web para noticias locales, el tiempo y entretenimiento en Tampa. TampaHoy.com.